Chapter 330. December 21st, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The referee stood in the middle of the ring and shouted, "First round between Shanbei University Martial Arts Club and Songqing University Martial Arts Club. Feng Zhirong versus Lin Ke." As the voice echoed, Lin Ke and Feng Zhirong stood up at the same time, as if they had been waiting for a long time. Maybe it was out of habit, or maybe it was because he had been influenced for a long time, but Lin Ke didn't go directly to the ring. Instead, he bumped fists with his teammates from left to right and heard cheers after cheers. When it came to the coach, Geezer sure coughed. Unlike the young people, he only spat out 2 words. "Don't worry. Don't worry." Lin Ke repeated silently. There seemed to be a flash of light in his deep eyes. He turned around and left his seat. Along the path to the defending champion, he walked step by step to the front of the stone steps. Around him, the deafening sound of trumpets rose and fell, one after another, welcoming Feng Zhirong to the ring. Feng Zhirong was a big boy of medium height with a delicate appearance. He looked shy, but his eyes were wild and stubborn. There seemed to be a proud and sharp soul hidden in his body. As soon as he stood on the right side of the referee, he stared sharply at Lin Ke, full of eagerness to fight. Lin Ke didn't show any weakness. He looked back calmly, as if there was a flame burning in the depths of his eyes. Defeating a qualified opponent was what every martial artist yearned for and looked forward to. The tense scene in the ring made the host in the live broadcast room sigh with emotion. Last September, they were both highly anticipated genius fighters in the martial arts circle of the university, but they never got the chance to fight each other. One of them was overshadowed by Peng Liyun's brilliance, and the other was overtaken by Lu Cheng, whose brilliance was overshadowed by Lu Cheng. Both of them have their own shortcomings. Today's duel will definitely have a loser and a winner. Well, we can't rule out a tie. In short, the winner will get back the glory that belongs to him, and the loser will be dejected, suffer greater setbacks, and bear greater pressure. Senior Zhang, who do you think will win? It's hard to say. Zhang Heran shook his head and didn't make a definite judgment. They have just entered the dance stage a few months ago and are still in the stage of advancing by leaps and bounds. How many moves of the fighting sect has Lin Ke mastered? How many breakthroughs of the meteor force has Feng Zhirong made? What new things have Feng Zhirong comprehended from the incomplete dark sect, plague sect and magnetic sect? None of these are known to outsiders. In other words, they don't know much about each other. This competition is full of variables. While the host and the guests were chatting, the referee looked around and extended his right hand. Conversation time starts now. Feng Zhirong smiled bashfully. The fighting spirit in his eyes grew stronger. "When I first entered university, I kept hearing your name and was always compared to you. It was inevitable that I wanted to fight with you. But last year, President Su awakened the Corvine Beak supernatural ability and didn't give me a chance. Now, I can finally officially fight with you." At this point, he was no longer courteous and courteous. Let's see who is more powerful and who doesn't live up to his name. Let's see who is the real heavenly son of the era. Since August, I have been holding my breath, waiting for today, waiting for the battle to prove myself. Facing his provocative words, Lin Ke didn't even blink. He stood there with a blank expression. He was silent, brewing, and secretly counting. Feng Zhirong knew his opponent's usual behavior, so he didn't care. After speaking his mind, he felt relieved and began to adjust his body slightly. He rotated the local magnetic field and pushed his state higher bit by bit. When the conversation time was coming to an end, he suddenly saw Lin Ke open his mouth and reply to his previous words. "Unfortunately, you are not Peng Liyun. Unfortunately, you are not Peng Liyun. Does that mean I'm not qualified? Is there a big gap between me and Peng Liyun?" Feng Zhirong was hit in the part of his heart that he didn't want to be touched. Because of his deeply hidden inferiority, he was furious. Like a stray cat whose tail was stepped on, his pupils contracted and his hair stood on end. He was about to rush forward and tear his enemy apart. "Sooner or later, I will defeat Peng Liyun. Sooner or later, I will surpass him. This day will start with defeating you." Just as Feng Zhirong was about to come to his senses and suppress his emotions, the referee raised his right hand and suddenly swung it down. "Begin." Lin Ke's grasp of the enemy's psychology and his use of time could be described as accurate. He was worthy of being a top student of the psychology department. However, when it came to psychological problems, those who could treat themselves couldn't treat themselves. Moreover, they were resistant to other people's treatment. Feng Zhirong was burning with anger. He bent his back and rushed toward his opponent in a zigzag manner, sticking close to the ground. His speed was extremely fast and his footwork was very strange. His opponent couldn't grasp where he would land every time. Lu Cheng's snake steps mixed with mercurial balance paled in comparison to his current state. Even if he was furious, Feng Zhirong was still a battle-hardened martial artist. He had seen Lin Kei's previous matches and had a deep impression of Lin Kei's lightning-fast attack at the beginning of the match. He didn't give him such a chance. Lin Kei looked indifferent. He didn't make the first move. His muscles and fascias operated and his feet moved toward Feng Zhirong, turning from passive to active. The sound of wind filled the arena. The two of them moved quickly and kept crossing each other. Each of them was looking for the best opportunity to attack. However, as soon as such an opportunity appeared, it was often covered by the opponent's footwork. They didn't collide for dozens of seconds, as if they were performing a dance for the audience. The layman enjoyed the show, while the expert appreciated the skill. While the audience was slightly disappointed that there wasn't a physical fight, Lu Cheng was watching attentively. His brother-in-law and Feng Zhirong's footwork were different. Feng Zhirong's footwork was ingenious. He moved in a straight line like a shooting star. He won with speed, and won with skill. The other was curved but not straight. He moved in circles and was more unpredictable. He was like a ghost in the dark night. Of course, they weren't very accomplished in this aspect. They were obviously weaker than Qiu Lin, who had practiced her family's footwork to the level of lotus steps, accompanying clouds and thunder. Lu Cheng had to practice U steps to the level of astral wind steps. When he walked, he was surrounded by astral wind, and made continuous explosive sounds. Only then could he be considered a match. After a few more rounds, the distance between the two of them was getting shorter and shorter. Lin Kei and Feng Zhirong seized the opportunity almost at the same time. Before they could use their strength and Dan Qi, Lin Kei exploded the strength in his shoulders and quickly swung his forearms to punch out like lightning. The other's back muscles swelled, and he slid forward and punched out like an illusion in the night. Bang! Their opportunities were intercepted by each other. The two fists collided in mid-air, making the first muffled sound of the match. Seeing the two fists freeze in mid-air, Feng Zhirong's elbow joint was dislocated in a strange position, causing his forearm to rise like a venomous snake. He leaped up close to Lin Kei's fist, his 5 fingers spread open, and quickly, accurately, and ruthlessly grabbed his opponent's arm. At this moment, Feng Zhirong's 5 fingers glowed with a faint dark light, as if they had turned into poisonous fangs. He was going to inject a deadly substance into Lin Kei's body through contact. The dark sect's dark poison force. This force originated from the plague sect and was also known as the plague force. It was later learned by the founder of the infinite scripture of dark sky, and incorporated into his own knowledge. It became one of the core forces of the dark sect. Compared to the original version, it was less poisonous and more mysterious. No matter where Lin Kei was touched, as long as it was not blocked by his force, he would be poisoned. Although the dark poison force that Feng Zhirong had mastered couldn't threaten Lin Kei's life with his current state, it could at least cause various negative effects, such as dizziness, difficulty in breathing, chest tightness and shortness of breath, effectively reducing the opponent's strength. Moreover, the poison would definitely accumulate, stacking over and over again. It would be difficult for Lin Kei to withstand it. Feng Zhirong's 5 fingers were like fangs that were about to bite down. It was so fast that it was impossible to dodge. At this moment, the muscles on Lin Kei's arm suddenly tightened and contracted, tightly sticking to his bones. It made that part of his body shorter out of thin air, causing Feng Zhirong's poisonous fangs to be slightly faster. It was as if he was trapped in a place of nothingness. This tightening and contraction was not normal. It was done by Lin Kei's force concentration. Following that, he didn't try to grab his opponent's wrist. Instead, he spurted out his Dan force and stomped his left foot. The 16th move of the fighting sect, earth-cracking. Boom! The sound exploded from inside the arena. The ground under Feng Zhirong's feet suddenly cracked open, with a strong force rushing up like a volcano coming to life. Compared to the previous move, Lin Kei's move had improved a lot. Feng Zhirong felt pain in the sole of his foot and couldn't help but pull back his leg. His body lost its balance and became unsteady. During this process, his right hand moved up and his 5 fingers left Lin Kei's arm. He couldn't catch Lin Kei anymore, so he injected the poison force. Lin Kei's eyes flashed. He wanted to seize the opportunity to start a combo. In this situation, Feng Zhirong didn't follow the momentum of the swaying to avoid the follow-up attacks with his footwork. He also didn't use force concentration to circulate his qi and blood to stabilize his body and defend against the counterattack. Instead, he swayed his center of gravity, exerted strength in his shoulders, and swung his right hand backward, hitting Lin Kei's arm with the back of his palm. He did some visualization in his mind. The darkness on his fingertips faded quickly, and the edge of his palm was stained with a touch of green. Bam! Lin Kei, who was about to attack, couldn't dodge in time. The back of Lu Cheng's hand brushed past his forearm. His vision suddenly turned black and he felt an indescribable pain. It was as if he had suffered a fracture, as if he had been hit in a vital part. It was just a brush, but it hurt so much. The 27th move of the plague sect, Scorpion Tail Needle. Feng Zhirong hadn't wasted the past few months. Not only had he mastered the force, but he had also mastered 2 unique moves. This move couldn't bring out the toxicity of the dark poison force, but it could cause more pain than normal, which would obviously affect the enemy. Although Lin Kei's right hand wasn't hurt, it still felt like it was disabled because it was uncomfortable when he used force. At this time, Feng Zhirong finally swung away and staggered back a few steps. Lin Kei knew that this kind of stimulation could be resolved by shrinking his qi and blood, force and spirit, but it was equivalent to wasting a chance to break out the dance stage. Therefore, he stubbornly clenched his teeth and endured the pain without doing anything. His face was pale and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. Chapter 331. While Lin Kei was enduring the pain, Feng Zhirong was not relaxed at all. For this match, he had watched many videos of powerful dance stage fighters from Shushan study, and was deeply impressed by their terrifying combo moves. Just now, when the sole of his foot was injured and he lost his balance, he subconsciously thought of this. Therefore, he used the scorpion tail needle in advance to avoid falling into the brink of failure. His original plan was to use this move of the plague sect at the critical moment and take advantage of Lin Kei's sudden pain to seize the opportunity to win. Now that he had exposed it so early, not only did he lose the element of surprise, but also caused a great burden to his body. It was all because he had been provoked by the scorpion tail needle, so the fight was more risky. Feng Zhirong was quite annoyed. He restrained his emotions, bent down again, and zigzagged around Lin Quebec. He did not attack and did not give his opponent a chance to use force concentration to relieve the pain. Being distracted by the pain would consume a fighter's energy. He intended to prolong this process as long as possible to weaken Lin Kei until his opponent got used to the pain. While zigzagging, he was slightly limping because the sole of his right foot had been hit by the earth fissure, leaving bruises and pain. If it were not for his shoes, he would have been seriously injured. In the short fight, both sides had suffered losses. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the commentator in the live broadcast room, Zhang He, explained in detail the few terms he had shouted before. Dark poison force is one of the core forces of the dark sect. It's very poisonous. No matter where it hits the opponent, it will cause a snake-like effect. As for the symptoms after being poisoned, it will depend on which aspect Feng Zhirong focuses on. The dark poison force, practiced by different dark sect fighters, is different. Some will cause hallucinations, some will cause shortness of breath, and some will cause dizziness. Scorpion Tail Needle is a dance stage move of the plague sect. It's part of the incomplete version and can produce pain that is several times greater than the original damage. The host was stunned when he heard this. He gasped and said, "Senior Zhang, is this true? But Feng Zhirong has no supernatural ability. How did he practice this force and this move?" For a dance stage martial artist without supernatural ability, before he entered the inhuman level and his root pulp changed, the force he cultivated depended on the cooperation of his own muscles, fascia, 5 viscera, 6 bowels, and spirit to create a certain effect by producing special waves. For example, a normal dance stage martial artist of the ice sect couldn't have such a strong frost force as Lu Cheng, let alone be able to release it. But according to Senior Zhang, The impact of Feng Zhirong's force and moves were beyond the normal level. Zhang He laughed and said, "He must have used the corresponding medicine to help him practice, just like how some fighters practice poison palm. This kind of force and moves can only be exerted by touching the opponent in a fixed position. It will be weaker and weaker each time, so he has to practice it again after the competition. Moreover, it is very burdensome to the body and can cause a lot of damage. Some break through the limit of the human body slowly, while some are not at the same level. Only when the root pulp is affected and changes corresponding to it can one slowly recover." While he was talking, Feng Zhirong saw that Lin Ke had already adapted to the pain, so he stopped moving and moved closer to him. He changed his moves and attacked with his fists and legs, followed by the catch, and watched in front and suddenly behind. This was the martial art he had become famous for when he was a professional ninth pin fighter. It was derived from the plague sect's chronic illness entanglement, unique skill, attack of 9 diseases. The word entanglement was prominent, and it could be used so easily that the opponent could only barely parry and not get rid of it. It was as if the opponent was suffering from various diseases and could only wait to be cured. Bang 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 bang. Feng Zhirong had been aiming at Lin Ke's right hand and didn't give him the best chance to counterattack with force concentration. For a moment, he had the upper hand, which made Mu Jinyan and Yan Zheka show the same worry. After calculating the approximate time when the pain would subside, he calmed down and suddenly showed a flaw. Lin Ke waited for a long time and stopped hesitating. He took a deep breath and let the pain condense into a point along with his qi and blood and spirit. Boom! Like a volcano erupting, the Dan qi gushed out. Lin Ke's right arm swelled, and he clenched his fist like a hammer and fiercely swung it at his opponent. He tore the air in the air like an airplane flying through the clouds. They were too close to each other, so he didn't have enough time to prepare for meteor burst. Facing this, Feng Zhirong didn't panic. He hugged his opponent and sat firmly on the golden throne. Bang! He took half a step forward and his body grew a little taller. He swung his fist majestically and said, "Sky-burning fire!" Bang! The two fists froze in midair. Feng Zhirong's feet sank into the ground. His martial arts shoes, which had long been damaged, were torn into pieces and scattered in different directions. Lin Ke, on the other hand, didn't move at all. He was about to use double explosion to give his opponent another earth-splitting attack. At this time, Lin Ke suddenly felt a strange suction from his opponent's fist, which slowed down the withdrawal of his right hand. Magnetic sect? He thought. He took a deep breath and shook his muscles. Not only did he stop the withdrawal, but he also took the opportunity to punch forward. He used the yin-yang twist to attack Feng Zhirong with the help of the suction force. Seeing this, Feng Zhirong was not surprised but happy. His face reddened, and he shook and twisted his wrist. The suction force suddenly changed into a repulsive force, which slowed Lin Ke's attack. It was this delay that made Feng Zhirong's body explode. It was like there were turbines running crazily. He controlled his body and changed the magnetic field in the subtle parts of his body. They stimulated and influenced each other, superimposing a terrifying explosive force. Magnetic sect, rotation of poles, magnetic field rotation. With a boom, he punched and blasted the air in front of him. He blasted towards Lin Ke with a crushing force. He didn't use force concentration for this attack, but it was almost as powerful as a Dan stage explosion. When one reached the inhuman stage, one's control was stronger, and one's body had changed. Many visualizations were no longer necessary. This move could be used together with force concentration to double the effect of a Dan stage explosion. Of course, the burden was not just doubled. Feng Zhirong used drugs to train his strength, and his body was damaged. The number of times he could use force concentration was less than a normal Dan stage, and he could only use double explosion once. Therefore, he practiced this move painstakingly to make up for his shortcomings. However, under normal circumstances, it was difficult to have enough preparation time to use this move freely in a battle. But now, he wanted to use this move to consume Lin Ke's Dan stage explosion. He wanted his opponent, who was still worried about the next match, to become impatient and make mistakes during the battle, giving him an opportunity to take advantage of. As for himself, he wasn't in a hurry at all. With Peng Layun behind him, no one would be in a hurry. In such a short distance, Feng Zhirong's punch was so powerful that Lin Ke couldn't dodge it. He had to either use force concentration to take it head-on, or be knocked out of his stance and retreat. He was in danger. Lin Kei's eyes grew deeper. He raised both his hands, and his wrists were gentle. He pulled and pushed. He chose not to use the power of his Dan force at this moment. Bam! Feng Zhirong's fist seemed to be stuck in a quagmire. Under the pull and push of his opponent's palms, it lost some momentum and couldn't release all of its power. Bam bam bam! Lin Kei took 3 steps back. His center of gravity was shaky, and his body wasn't nimble enough. Now is the time. Feng Zhirong seized the opportunity and strode forward. He stretched out his right hand and grasped Lin Kei's left arm accurately. A faint ink light flashed and poured into Lin Kei's arm. He finally had a chance to use his dark poison force to his heart's content. Seeing that he had succeeded, Feng Zhirong was delighted. He was about to attack again when he saw that Lin Kei's eyes were calm, as if he had been waiting for this moment. Lin Kei took a deep breath. His body trembled violently, and all of his muscles seemed to be undulating. He stretched out his right hand and spread out his 5 fingers. The tip of his hand was also black. Ji family's yin-yang twist. I'll return your dark poison force with my dark poison force. With a snap of his fingers, Lin Kei poured half of the borrowed dark poison force into Feng Zhirong's body and returned it to his opponent. Feng Zhirong's chest tightened, and he felt short of breath. Although he was resistant to poison, taking so much at once would still affect him. As for Lin Kei, his yin-yang twist was still far from being able to completely neutralize his opponent's force. More than half of the poison still remained in his body, and his qi was even weaker. However, he was already prepared. After his successful attack, he immediately used force concentration to reduce all the negative effects. Taking advantage of the fact that Feng Zhirong had yet to recover, he exploded his human body Big Dan. After accumulating his momentum, he leaned forward and swung his arm. After expanding his muscles, he quickly rushed forward again. Boom! The air between the two seemed to explode as a violent shockwave surged toward Feng Zhirong. Fighting Sex 27th move. Meteor burst. Just as Lin Kei was about to punch, Feng Zhirong's pupils shrank. He didn't dare to be careless and quickly used force concentration to condense his qi and blood in his dantian. He raised his hand to block the violent impact. But once Lin Kei started his combo, it wouldn't be so simple. He hugged and let go, and his left foot suddenly stomped down. Fighting Sex earth-cracking. Double explosion. Bang! A muffled sound came from within as the ground cracked. Feng Zhirong didn't care about his feet. His feet hurt, and his body swayed again. He had to use force concentration to circulate his qi and blood to stabilize his center of gravity. At this time, Lin Kei's foot stomped down, and he was already close to Feng Zhirong's body. His arm opened and closed, and he grabbed Feng Zhirong's arm. He bent his elbow and pressed it against Feng Zhirong's joint, making it temporarily impossible for Feng Zhirong to use force. Then Lin Kei took a deep breath and visualized the scene of a falling meteor. He let go of his dantian and jumped up, pressing Feng Zhirong against the ground. Triple explosion. Fighting Sex 10th move. Death calamity. Bang! Feng Zhirong was dizzy from the fall and lost the ability to fight back. Lin Kei lowered his body, loosened his arm, and with a spring of his arm, pressed against Feng Zhirong's throat. The referee raised his right hand and announced loudly, Lin Kei wins. Songqing University Martial Arts Club won the first match. Hearing this, Mu Jinyan immediately jumped up and cheered, "You're right. Hooray! Lin Kei is awesome." Lu Cheng, Yan Zhaka, and the others were also happy, but they weren't so excited. The match was not over yet, and there were still many difficulties ahead. Chapter 332. In the live broadcast room of the video website, the commentator, Zhang He, was full of praise for Lin Kei's attack. If you look at the 3 moves separately, they're just so. The application of force is more important than the cleverness of the moves. But the connection between them. The connection is just right. One move after another, leaving no chance for Feng Zhirong to escape. Lin Kei seems to have grasped some of the essence of the combo of the fighting sect. In the end, Feng Zhirong couldn't fight back. Firstly, his arm was caught. Secondly, his joints were pressed. Thirdly, Lin Kei must have sent a corresponding force into his body, which affected him and made him unable to use his full strength. Otherwise, how could this combo be called death? When Lin Ke grabbed Feng Zhirong, pay attention to his fingers. There's also the performance of Dark Poison Force. This should be a unique skill derived from the shifting stars of the fighting sect. If I'm not wrong, it's probably the yin-yang twist of the Ji family. Risky, a little risky. With Lin Ke's realm, it's a little risky. Lin Ke held back at the end. If he didn't hold back, with Feng Zhirong's current physique, he would have lost half of his life. If he was unlucky, his spine would have hit a sharp stone. Then he would have been paralyzed. Feng Zhirong too. Sigh, how should I say this? Others are incoherent once they succeed. But he got it in one move and forgot to be cautious. He wanted to win too much and cared too much. Listening to old Master Zhang's explanation, the bullet screen floated by. Damn, Lin Ke was so cool when he grabbed Feng Zhirong and pressed him down. My blood is boiling from watching this. When Feng Zhirong's back hit the arena with a bang, I was so excited that I was burning. This is a competition. This is martial arts. Those who are burning should go away. Me too. But I'm supporting Xiaofan. When Feng Zhirong hit the ground, I, who am familiar with romance novels, thought of a word, a ravaged ragdoll. Sigh, looks like Feng Zhirong is falling behind. He's out of the competition for the heavenly son of the age. He can't even beat Lin Quebec. What a piece of trash. Damn. Is this a fake competition? Just look at the odds. I supported him so much. He's so useless. The audience couldn't hide their disappointment either. No one wanted to see Lin Ke lose, but as supporters of the defending champion, they had experienced the test of battle time and time again, so they restrained their emotions and sincerely applauded Lin Quebec. They applauded for his performance just now, and for the last hit that made their adrenaline rush. They tolerated Mu Jinyan's excitement and cheers to the greatest extent. Yan Shaoling was stunned and suspected that Xiaofan did not have many supporters. Most of the people present were hired extras. His demeanor is not bad. I can let myself loose later. She thought silently. Amidst the applause, the Xiaofan students subconsciously turned their eyes to the home team seats, waiting for the king to pick up his scepter and ascend to his throne to appease the disappointment in everyone's hearts. Ever since he entered university, he had never really failed. Peng Liyun cast his gaze towards the ring and unhurriedly unzipped his clothes. He took off his winter coat, revealing the martial arts suit underneath. Xiaofan's martial arts suit was the traditional pure white, which clashed with Songqing's white with black edges. This way, the audience would not be able to tell who was who during the fight, which was not good for the broadcast. Therefore, the defending champion showed his elegance and wore a spare black suit. Peng Liyun's black suit made his skin look like white jade, with a faint glow. His whole temperament was cleaner and cleaner, like a god or an immortal. On the chest of his martial arts suit, there was an embroidered pattern of 2 crowns, which symbolized that Xiaofan had won 2 national university martial arts competitions championships. 2 years ago, there was none. Under the watchful eyes of the audience, Peng Liyun flicked his clothes, collected his thoughts, and stood up with a focused gaze. The moment he stood up, the audience went wild. Countless voices merged into one shout. Champion! On the arena, Lin Ke let go of Feng Zhirong and took 2 steps back. He opened his mouth and breathed in big gulps of thin air. This was because he had consumed a lot of energy and was tired. It was also because of the remnants of the dark poison force that was still affecting his body. Dark poison force was poisonous. Unlike shock and pain, which could be completely neutralized by force concentration, there were bound to be side effects. It needed to be completely eliminated through the body's metabolism. If one encountered a martial artist who had mastered this kind of force and didn't have a strong enough physique, they might need to be treated with medicine to truly recover. When Lin Ke did not use force concentration to deal with Feng Zhirong's rotation of 2 poles, he already had the idea of taking the risk of resisting the dark poison force and using the yin-yang twist to surprise his opponent. The reason for this was that he felt that the combination of the dark sect and the plague sect was strange and poisonous. If he was not careful, he would fall into the trap and lose the match. It was better to take the initiative to create an opportunity and grasp the victory in the palm of his hand. Even if he had to pay a high price, he would not hesitate. If he wanted to defeat an opponent like Feng Zhirong, it was impossible to do so without paying a price. Although Geezer Sure had specifically told him to not be hasty before entering the arena, Lin Ke still believed in his own observation and judgment when it came to performing on the spot. Feng Zhirong struggled to stand up. His eyes were full of anger. He was angry at his opponent, but even more angry at himself. If he had not been happy after the dark poison force had entered Lin Ke's body and had not planned to take the opportunity to attack again, he would have immediately dodged like a normal dark sect member to open up a distance to prevent the opponent's fierce counterattack and wait for the toxins to fully take effect. There was no possibility of being hurt by the unique skill derived from shifting stars. In that case, not only would Lin Ke have to use one dance stage explosion to reduce the toxins, but he would also be weakened to a certain extent in the future. Then he would have more or less secured victory. Regret and pain were like a poisonous snake gnawing at Feng Zhirong's soul. He did not care about politeness. He turned around and stumbled out of the arena. The anger in his body seemed to be about to be vented at any time. He could already imagine what kind of comments would appear on the internet. At the thought of this, he felt more sullen, more regretful, more angry, and more painful. When he met Peng Liyun on the way, Feng Zhirong was completely immersed in his own world and did not notice him at all. Or rather, he did not want to notice him. They brushed past each other and did not interact. Peng Liyun took a light breath and shook off the little emotions in his heart. He walked to the front of the stone steps with a smile and stepped onto the arena step by step. He did not release his imposing manner. Just the various halos on his body made Lin Ke subconsciously hold his breath. A man's name was like a tree's shadow. The heavenly son of the age naturally had an intimidating aura. In the guest team seats, Lu Cheng, Yan Zhaka, and the others also focused their expressions. They restrained their joy and became serious and silent. Lin Ke had performed a force concentration, and then completed the triple explosion. There was still the influence of the dark poison force in his body. How much fighting strength did Lin Ke have left? How much could he shake this heavenly son of the age? In the oppressive atmosphere, only Geezer Sure was nagging to himself. Lin Ke is also a person who does not listen to reason. I told him not to rush, but he just had to rush. If Feng Zhirong was not agitated by him and also became anxious and wanted to win more, he would have lost. Sigh. He does not listen to the advice of an old man. Sigh, sigh, sigh. He actually did not suffer in front of him. Peng Liyun and Lin Ke stood on both sides of the referee amidst the shouts of "champion" that filled the arena. The referee did not delay and announced loudly, "Second round, start." The sound of "start" was still echoing. Just when everyone thought Lin Ke would use the tactic of avoiding the opponent's main force to save his strength and try to exhaust Peng Liyun and seize the opportunity to break out the dance stage at the critical moment, the qi, blood, and force around his body suddenly contracted and condensed, then expanded and expanded. With a bang, it was as if a bomb had exploded under Lin Ke's feet. Countless pieces of debris flew out in all directions. His entire body turned into a high-speed heavy truck, as if he was chasing after the sound. He rushed towards his opponent with a buzzing sound, closing the distance between them in the blink of an eye. But just when he took a step, Peng Liyun seemed to have a premonition. His qi and blood condensed and his waist swayed like a cloud, naturally and harmoniously bouncing out. He faced the challenge head-on and did not avoid it at all. With this flick, there seemed to be an afterimage in the air. It seemed that in just an instant, Peng Liyun had arrived in front of Lin Ke, despite moving later. Dong! Peng Liyun stomped on the ground and shook the arena. Lu Cheng and Li Mao, who were sitting in the away team seats, could feel the power of 10,000 galloping horses. They saw Peng Liyun's arm swing back and threw out a punch like thunder breaking through the sky. The 36th move of the Thunder Sect, Flash Attack. Lin Ke hurriedly stopped and turned the kinetic energy into strength. His muscles bulged and he raised his arm. His fist turned into a cannonball and shot out like a bolt of lightning. He knew Peng Liyun had Flash Attack, but he did not expect his opponent to have predicted that he would cut off all means of retreat. Boom! The meteor exploded, and the airflow turned into waves that flooded toward Peng Liyun. However, the god's favored one's fist forcibly dispersed the shockwave, passed through the gale, and collided with Lin Ke's right fist. The muffled sound was covered by the explosion. Lin Ke's body leaned back as if he could not bear it and was about to fall back. But he once again used force concentration to reverse his qi and blood. He controlled his center of gravity, stabilized his stance, and stepped out with his left foot. Almost at the same time, Peng Liyun held his Dan in his abdomen, expanded his right leg, and sent a hidden force down from the soles of his feet. Poof! A muffled sound came from inside the arena, but the green bricks did not crack. Lin Kei's ground fissure was so easily neutralized. Peng Liyun used the rebound to jump up and reach out his hands to grab both of his opponent's shoulders. Lin Kei felt a sharp pain in his shoulder and hurriedly raised his arm in an attempt to ward off the attack. At this moment, Peng Liyun's veins bulged like numerous flood dragons, showing a strong sense of strength. But in response, Lin Kei swayed his waist and back and smoothly flashed behind his opponent. The position of his hands did not change, but the path he came from was forcibly changed into an arc and was no longer the same, just enough to avoid the attack. Peng Liyun pressed down with his hands and clasped his fingers. Lin Kei's body suddenly became numb and stiffened, almost collapsing. The referee raised his right hand and announced loudly, "Second round, Peng Liyun wins. 3 moves, Peng Liyun wins." Lin Kei regained his composure and turned his head around. He looked at his opponent with a complicated gaze and said in a low, muffled voice, "Thank you. Thank you for not underestimating me and going all out." Peng Liyun smiled and nodded. He did not look like he had just fought a match. In the away team seats, Lu Qing exhaled and took off his jacket. The scenes of the past 4 months of hard training and the discussions with Yan Zheka flashed in his mind. Is it finally going to start? Chapter 333. Is it finally going to start? I've been waiting for more than 4 months. I even gave up the ranking event just for this moment. Lu Cheng reached out and held Yan Zheka's delicate hand. He stood up quickly and looked over the path of glory to the arena. Only then did the surrounding audience react. They all sighed in satisfaction, praising the king of Flying Bird Hall for defeating his opponent so easily. They shouted in unison and sincerely called out, "King! Number 1! Number 1 in the University Martial Arts Circle." Hearing their praise, Mu Jinyan couldn't help but stomp her feet. She looked at Lin Kei with pity and bit her lip. "So angry. You bully our Lin Kei who just finished a fight." On the interface of the live broadcast website, there was a fierce argument on the bullet screen. "Only 3 moves? Lazai just warmed up. Lin Kei is just a... He's not qualified to be a candidate for the heavenly son of the age. Peng Liyun is indeed a true genius." So what if it's only 3 moves? Lin Kei just defeated Feng Zhirong and consumed a lot of energy. What's more, he's still under the influence of the dark poison force. He's 2 levels lower than Peng Liyun. Losing in 3 moves doesn't mean anything. Stubborn. Didn't he say that he's 2 levels lower than Peng Liyun? Is he still a candidate for the heavenly son of the age? That's right. Lin Kei is 1 year younger than Peng Liyun. Isn't it normal for him to be weaker than him? He'll catch up sooner or later. Catch up? Can he reach 2 levels in 1 year? Can he reach the level of 6th pin by this time next year? I think it's hard, no, almost impossible. There were many viewers who supported Peng Liyun, but there were also many who supported Lin Quebec. A young martial artist who was strong, handsome, and cold would always attract people's love. The 2 sides were arguing fiercely for a while, and the bullet screen almost completely covered the video above. "Senior Zhang, what do you think? Is the gap between Lin Kei and Peng Liyun so big?" The host seized the opportunity and threw a question to the commentator. Zhang He chuckled and said, "There is definitely a gap. Peng Liyun is at least a year ahead of Lin Quebec. If Lin Kei had caught up with him, then he wouldn't be called the Heaven's Pride of the era. As for how big the gap is, we'll have to wait until Lin Kei fights with Peng Liyun in perfect condition to know. As for this battle, if Lin Kei didn't go all out, he wouldn't have lost in 3 moves." "Do you mean Lin Kei made a wrong choice? Too impatient and risky?" the host keenly asked in return. Zhang He shook his head and said, "It's hard to say. I'm inclined to think that Lin Kei was greatly affected by the dark poison force. He consumed a lot of energy and his physical strength was severely reduced. His resistance was weakened. If he had used other methods, he might not have been able to hold on for long. It was better to take a risk and see if he could find an opportunity to give Peng Liyun a set of consecutive moves. Even if he couldn't win, he could at least tire his opponent. But who knew that Pang Liyun's absolute reaction was getting more and more powerful? He was able to sense the malice and the subtle preparations of the body and made the best response. After hearing what you said, I think Pang Liyun is so strong that he has no friends. Lu Cheng is also in danger. With the strength of sixth pin close to the inhuman stage, the battle just now was really just a warm-up. The host sighed. At this time, Lu Cheng first high-fived Yan Zheka, then turned around and waved his fist at Sun Jian, Li Mao, and the others. Come on! Kai Zhongming and the others clenched their fists and responded. Without further delay, Lu Cheng was about to leave his seat and go to the arena. At this time, Yan Zheka bit her pink lips and suddenly shouted in a low voice, Cheng? Yes? Lu Cheng turned to look at his girlfriend in confusion. Yan Zheka's eyes were bright and firm. She slightly dodged and reached out her delicate hand to hold Lu Cheng's finger. Then she pursed her lips and summoned up the courage to say, Darling, come on! In public, surrounded by a sea of spectators, behind and around her were the eyes and ears of her teammates of the martial arts club. Yan Zheka's pretty face was red with embarrassment, but she still finished the sentence without hesitation. As for whether she would be laughed at, whether it would be filmed, or whether there would be other effects, she didn't want to think about it and didn't care. At this time, it was more important to support and encourage Cheng. Lu Cheng was surprised at first, then showed a surprised smile. He held her soft hand and nodded heavily with surging warmth. Without saying anything, he turned around and walked to the arena. His right thumb rubbed the ring on his left palm. I'll do my best. On the way, he saw Lin Kei walking towards him, gasping for breath. Lin Kei stopped in his tracks. His eyes were filled with the pain and unwillingness that Lu Cheng remembered so deeply. Even though he lost to the powerful Pang Liyun, even though he had defeated Feng Zhirong, he still felt that he didn't do well enough and that he could do better. That kind of painful emotion rolled and burned in his usually deep eyes. Just when Lu Cheng thought that his brother-in-law would say, I'm sorry like he did when he beat up Wenqing School, Lin Kei took the initiative to reach out and bumped fists with him. He said in a hoarse voice, Come on! Come on! Carry my pain and carry everyone's hope. Come on! Don't be affected by my emotions. Come on! Lu Cheng exhaled and walked past Lin Quebec step by step. He approached the stone steps. His body was adjusting, his momentum was gathering, and his fighting spirit was rising. He hadn't fought with all his strength for more than 4 months. He was still not used to the feeling of bursting out to the extreme. Clap, clap. Muffled sounds kept coming out of his body, as if a machine that had not been used for a long time was removing rust, applying lubrication, and adjusting accurately. When he ascended the arena and stood before Pang Liyun, his entire body's imposing aura erupted and was sharp like the edge of a weapon, and he didn't have the slightest bit of idleness and unfamiliarity. Lu Cheng stared at Pang Liyun's smiling eyes and watched his leisurely starting posture. Lu Cheng also got into his stance, with his left hand low and his right hand high. Then let's fight. Then burn to your heart's content. The referee raised his right hand and was about to swing it down. In front of the computer screen, Brahman unconsciously tightened her 2 braids and forgot about the snacks beside her. She couldn't care less about posting on the forum. She focused on her eyes and froze her nervousness. It's starting. It's starting. I've been looking forward to this battle for more than 4 months. Unparalleled Dragon King posted a toast emoji in the live broadcast post of Lu Cheng's fan forum. Big sister, it's about to begin. Boss, what a coincidence. Senior sister, you're finally here. In the office of the Martial Arts Club of Capital College, a group of people stared at the screen from the corner of their eyes and looked towards the door. They shouted, half cheered and half joked. Shan Yu gasped for breath and smiled gently to the girl next to her. Ignore them and go in. Pang Liyun and Lu Cheng are about to start the battle. The girl was of medium height with straight shoulder-length hair, a straight nose and big eyes. She looked like a real doll and didn't look dangerous at all. But who would have thought that she was Ren Li of Kongtong, who was on par with Pang Liyun? In response to the teasing of her team members, she smiled embarrassedly as she entered the door. I got lost again. Sorry to keep you waiting. Haha, Xiaoli, I think I have no sense of direction. No, I'm not a sense of direction. I got lost because of you. Chen Digua, another leading player of Capital College, spread his hands and laughed. The cute girl, Jiang Kongchan, covered her mouth and giggled. Senior sister, I think you have the potential to be the heroine. If you go to the wrong hotel room one day and enter the room of the overbearing president, a romantic story will begin. Renly pulled a chair and sat down. She answered calmly. Overbearing president? 1 punch is enough. If it doesn't work, 2 punches. While speaking, she looked at the screen and saw the referee's right hand waving down. In the stands, Yan Xiaoling held her breath and forgot to take out the banner she brought, blow the trumpet, and cheer. In the seats of the home team, Feng Zhirong covered his head with a white towel and didn't look at the match. Su Wanyan changed his cross-legged posture and prayed subconsciously. Junior brother Peng, don't leave that monster to me. In the seats of the away team, Yan Zheka, Lin Hua, and the others all stood up and looked at the ring nervously. No one sat down and no one spoke. Only Shi Jiangwo was calm. After all, he was experienced and knowledgeable. Start. The referee finally waved down his right hand. Lu Cheng felt the ground shake when the sound was still in his ears. Almost at the same time, he saw Peng Liyun appear in front of him with his clothes sticking close to his body. The flash attack movement was worthy of its reputation. Lu Cheng didn't know how to deal with it until he met it face to face. He adjusted his muscles and visualized a mighty god with the head of a beast and the body of a human standing on a red dragon to suppress the violence of the flame in his body. He leaned forward, lowered his left hand, shook his wrist, and threw out a red flame that was moving close to the ground. The red flame contained a dangerous aura. It was the modified version of the 26th movement of the ice sect, ice burning, flame burning. The flame was close to the ground and quickly rushed to Peng Liyun. Once it touched the ground, it would immediately explode and spurt upward, burning everything in sight. At this moment, Peng Liyun stopped almost without inertia. His muscles and fascias bulged and rubbed against the air at high speed, creating an explosion. Bang! There seemed to be thunder on the ground. Strong wind swept around Peng Liyun and suddenly rolled up the flame, leading it to move in advance. Shang Qing Yu steps. Dipper step. Peng Liyun had practiced this footwork to the level of thunder and dipper step. With thunder and dipper step, he seemed to be able to communicate with the heaven and invite the gods. Boom! The ball of flame that Lu Cheng had shaken out exploded and shot upward. It happened to be half a foot away from Peng Liyun, illuminating his face in flickering light. Of course, Lu Cheng didn't think he could hurt the heavenly son of the era with one move. As soon as the flame burning was released, his body followed. The brutal blizzard didn't stop and didn't stop. In just this short exchange, the audience in front of the computer screen was stunned. A thought suddenly appeared in their minds. This was a little like a battle between physical invulnerability experts. It was like watching a battle between the Dragon King and the Warrior Sage. Fire and thunder, passion and ferocity. Chapter 334. After a moment of stunned silence, the bullet screen was flooded with all kinds of content, including the scene they had just seen. When did Lu Cheng's supernatural ability of fire become so strong? He seems to have mastered some kind of fire force. That move should be the modified version of ice burning. Sure enough, a scholar who has been away for 3 days has to be looked at with new eyes. Tisk tsk, that's awesome. This match is indeed worth looking forward to. Just as these exclamations appeared at the same time, there was a new change in the situation on the field. Lu Cheng threw out flame burning and pounced forward. When the flame was ignited by Peng Liyun's dancing dipper invulnerability, it burned up without hitting the target and lit up their faces. In his mind, he visualized the magnificent scene of a surging river frozen for thousands of miles. It was a pure and natural scene. As soon as this scene appeared, his muscles, tendons, and internal organs changed accordingly. The cold current turned into a tide, surging violently. This was not the end. The frozen river painting flashed and the sky was pulled closer. Thunderclouds rolled and rumbled, spreading outward. Lu Cheng transferred the force from his toes to his back. He shook out his right arm, which expanded into a stick, and swung it down. Thunder Roar Zen. Severe warning. This was not his modified move, but the original simplified version of physical invulnerability. After he entered the dance stage, his ability to control had improved substantially, and his spirit had also made a breakthrough. Besides, he had learned the swordsman formula and finally mastered the original severe warning. The stick swung down, deafening. The flames that leaped up between the two of them flickered and were quickly extinguished. Peng Liyun's eyes reflected Lu Cheng's right fist that was rapidly smashing towards him. His eyes were filled with excitement. He made 2 visualizations in his mind and fixed them on a cyan jade talisman suspended in the void. This jade talisman was written with a few complicated characters. They looked like intertwining lightning lines, sizzling with silvery white light. At the last moment, the lines suddenly became clear. Yin and yang stimulated and overlapped with each other. This was a change exclusive to Peng Liyun. His eyes shone brightly, condensing into 2 electric balls. He straightened his body, every muscle in his body bulging with blood, as if he was the incarnation of the thunder god. Using his fists as a hammer, he swung them up fiercely to meet Lu Cheng's roar. The 11th move of the Thunder Sect, a simplified unique skill of physical invulnerability, Thunder Seal. Bam! The 2 fists froze in mid-air, and a gust of wind blew. Peng Liyun's eyes lost focus for a moment, as if he was lost in the fierce battle. A layer of white mist condensed on his arms and outside of his martial arts suit, and his hair was also dyed with frost. Lu Cheng felt as if he had touched a dangerous power source with his bare hands. His whole body was numb, his ears were full of buzzing sounds, and his hair stood on end. He lost control of his muscles and started to tremble. His internal organs seemed to be affected and were in disorder. Peng Liyun and Lu Cheng stood there in a daze. The scene seemed to have been paused. The students and the audience in front of the computer screen were stunned. If the scene was not zoomed in, showing the frost on Peng Liyun's body and Lu Cheng's hair, many people would have suspected that there was something wrong with their eyes or their internet connection. It was said that both Lu Cheng and Peng Liyun had mastered simplified unique skills of physical invulnerability. Is this the result of a head-on collision? Who will recover first? Awesome! The younger generation will surpass us in time. The commentator, Zhang He, sighed. When he was at Lu Cheng's age, he didn't have so many terrifying skills. No, not to mention now, even 5 or 10 years later, he still didn't master any simplified moves of physical invulnerability. I haven't seen Lu Cheng's move, so I don't know what it is called. I can only guess that it is a combination of the Ice Sect Force and Tremor Punch. Peng Liyun's move is called Thunder Seal. Before the Inhuman stage, if you don't have the supernatural ability of thunder, the effect of your move will be much weaker. But Peng Liyun made some changes and improved the power of his Thunder Seal. It is only a little weaker than the original version. What a genius! Zhang He explained to the audience. Peng Liyun was a pure martial artist without any supernatural ability. One of them was close to the Inhuman stage and had a monstrous physical quality. The other had a powerful supernatural ability, and the simplified moves of physical invulnerability were even more powerful. In the end, they recovered from the stiffness almost at the same time. One of them regained the spirit in his eyes, and the other regained control of his muscles. Of course, almost didn't mean they were the same. Lu Cheng had awakened his supernatural ability for the second time, practiced the swordsman formula internally, and practiced the dance stage. His physical quality had changed qualitatively. Although there was still a gap between him and Peng Liyun, it wasn't that much weaker. Lu Cheng recovered earlier than Peng Liyun. He took a step forward and approached Peng Liyun. He bounced his hands and shook his elbows and wrists. Mental stimulation hit 7 spots on Peng Liyun's body before the move. He hid the strength of his fascia and muscles, waiting for the final moment when the direction of the attack was determined. At the same time, a glittering white light was ejected from Lu Cheng's hands and spread around, turning into a frost fog made of ice crystals. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Every ice crystal was vibrating due to the vibrations, which interfered with Peng Liyun's hearing and caused him to feel a tingling sensation, which affected his absolute reaction. The white frost fog made him see things vaguely. The 13th move of the Ice Sect, Snow Cover. When a normal dance stage fighter of the Ice Sect used this move, it wouldn't be as magical as Lu Cheng's. They could only influence the outside world with their force to lower the temperature, create fog, and interfere with the enemy's judgment. They could only determine the real target of the attack at the last moment, which minimized the effect of absolute reaction. In other words, when the fighter felt the pain, he could only block the attack in a hurry because of the danger. This was a very complicated move. Lu Cheng had practiced hard for more than 3 months before he could master it. In the frost fog, Lu Cheng kept moving his hands, holding back his force. Suddenly, his hip muscles tightened and his right foot kicked out silently, aiming for Peng Liyun's ankle. Both of them were so close to each other that Peng Liyun's absolute reaction would almost land on him with this kick. In the vast snowy sky, the cold rises from the feet. This was the true meaning of snow cover. However, the changes between the feint and the real were never done step by step. When some ice sect fighters used this move, they would use the kick as the feint and the hand as the real, making it impossible to guard against. However, before Lu Cheng's right foot kicked out, Peng Liyun had already straightened his tailbone and was about to direct the force to his leg. He seemed to have sensed the malice coming from under his foot. Bam! Lu Cheng's low kick was followed by his left foot, as if they had practiced it thousands of times. He also shook his right arm and stabbed forward like a big spear. Bam! Lu Cheng was much weaker than Peng Liyun in terms of strength. His right foot was kicked back, and his whole body leaned forward involuntarily. It seemed that he was about to stumble and fall towards Peng Liyun, colliding with the spear in his right arm. At the critical moment, Lu Cheng quickly moved his spine and changed his center of gravity like Mercury. He forcibly maintained his balance and circulated his qi and blood, using force concentration on his lower abdomen to deal with the fierce attack of his opponent who had lost the initiative. Peng Liyun's eyes were still shining. He looked very excited. His qi, blood, force, spirit, and all kinds of feelings were condensed into one point, driving his right arm to swing back. Bam! Their dantian qi gushed out. One of them swung his right fist upward like a god holding a thunderhammer. The other tightened the muscles on his elbows, wrists, and other parts of his body. He pulled back his arm and shot out a fist with bulging veins like a bow. Bam! Every punch landed on their flesh, causing the greenish-black color to wriggle. Their muscles, bones, veins, and blood vessels all had a slight deformation. The deep sound awakened the ancient factors hidden in the audience's body, causing them to secrete adrenaline and their blood to boil. Crack! A spider web appeared under Lu Cheng's feet. Lu Cheng was a little slower, so he shook his body and took a step back. Peng Liyun followed him forward, making a strange visualization in his mind. He raised both of his fists and punched out continuously. It was so fast that it was like a machine gun was firing. Modern Xingyi. Machine fist. Bam, 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 bam. The audience heard the sound of Peng Liyun's fascia contracting and stretching, and the opening and closing of his joints, as if there was a machine running coldly and continuously. Bam, bam. This. Li Mao and others saw that Peng Liyun's fists were almost leaving after images. They felt that if they were in Lu Cheng's position, they would not be able to keep up with the machine fist shooting, even if they were defending from the inside and needed less distance to move. Lin Kei's eyes deepened and he clenched his fists as he stared at the ring. It was as if he had just seen the heavenly son of heaven clearly. He felt that every sound was knocking on his heart. Yen Zheka forgot to breathe. Her heart was hanging, and a thin layer of sweat was secreted into her clenched fists. However, she was not as panicked as the others. Brahman and Yen Shaoling also held their breaths, praying silently. Machine fist. The guest commentator, Zhang He, shouted the name of Peng Liyun's kung fu. In modern Xingyi, gun finger and catapult body movements were the simplest, blast punch was slightly more difficult, and machine fist required almost sixth pin controllability and reaction speed to master. Once used, the fist was as fast as a torrent of bullets, making the opponent unable to keep up with the rhythm. The opponent could block a few, but not dozens or hundreds. Zhang He looked at the screen and quickly reminded the audience, "Don't pay attention to the hand. Look at Peng Liyun's footwork." If the machine fist didn't change and only hit the same spot, the opponent in a defensive state could simply wave his arms to parry. Since there was no need to think and the movement distance was very short, the opponent could keep up with the rhythm and defend steadily. Therefore, the essence of machine fist was not the fist, but the feet. Through the coordination of footwork, the target of the attack could be changed intermittently, making the opponent unable to react and be hit by the strafing shot. Just as Zhang He finished his words, he suddenly frowned with a look of surprise and said, Why could Lu Cheng still keep up with Peng Liyun after changing the attacking position 3 times? The two of them had a tacit understanding as if they had fought dozens or hundreds of times. Unparalleled Dragon King also noticed that something was wrong. Lu Cheng's heart turned into ice and turned into a crystal-clear mirror, reflecting the clear scene within a 1-meter radius. In this scene, he could see the general changes in Pang Liyun's muscles and the preparation before the step. This allowed him to judge in advance and respond accordingly. Ice Mirror was the most difficult unique skill of the ice sect for those below the physical invulnerability stage. Lu Cheng formed a Dan with the combination of essence, qi, spirit and willpower, and mixed with a little premonition of the Gene Dan, he was only one step away from the entry level of Ice Mirror. With the combination of Forwarding Formula and Swordsman Formula, he finally entered the entry level a month ago and was now firmly in the initial level. It was because of this that he was able to defend himself from Pang Liyun's Machine God Fist, that was infused with thunder and lightning, not scattering or panicking. Bam 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 bam. Bam 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 bam. The sounds were continuous and seemingly uninterrupted. Lu Cheng always reacted in advance, either quickly swinging his arm, swinging his wrist or flicking his 5 fingers. With the smooth and transparent nature of the force around him, his defense was watertight. However, his strength was not as good as Pang Liyun's. After blocking a few moves, he had to take a step back to relieve the pressure. As a result, it seemed that he was being forced back by Machine Fist, step by step. However, during this process, Lu Cheng's steps were curved, not straight lines, so as to avoid falling off the arena. One's attack was exaggerated and fierce, while the other's defense was steady and amazing. The audience in the arena and in front of the computer couldn't help but change their posture and move their bodies. It seemed that they couldn't wait to jump up and throw a few punches to vent their excitement. He's too strong. He's not human. Huang He no, Pang Liyun. He's not human. Even if he's an iron plate, he'd probably be smashed into pieces. Lu Cheng is pretty good too. I'm almost dizzy, but he's still so steady in his defense. Yeah, he doesn't show any signs of losing. He really lives up to his reputation. After countless punches, just when Lu Cheng felt that he couldn't take it anymore, Pang Liyun finally caught his breath. He stopped the Machine Fist move and his abdomen expanded and contracted. Chance. This is the moment I've been waiting for. Lu Cheng took a step back and dissolved the accumulated pressure. In his mind, he outlined a sharp ancient character. Ignoring the pain in his arms and fists, he raised his hands to make a gesture and solemnly said in a low voice, Army! Army Formula, a secret spiritual technique. His voice reverberated in the surroundings. The atmosphere suddenly became desperate. Pang Liyun felt like he was trapped in an army of tens of thousands. His ears were filled with murderous shouts, his feet were trembling because of thousands of galloping horses, and his body was filled with iron-blooded killing intent. He was surrounded by enemies, and he felt like he was surrounded by enemies. His mind was in a mess, and his body involuntarily trembled. He hurriedly visualized the scene of yin and yang clashing and bursting out thunderbolts in his mind. Boom! The thunderbolts burst out and turned into a solemn and condescending god. A sense of extreme yang filled the surroundings, dispelling the killing intent and dispersing the weapons. The unique skill of the Thunder Sect, specialized in eliminating external evil. Boom! Lu Cheng was hit by the spiritual counterattack. His mind kept buzzing. He seemed to have turned into a ghost in the midst of lightning and thunder. His body trembled, as if he would vanish at any time. The ice mirror in his heart lake flashed and a crack appeared. At this moment, he outlined a large character in his mind. He made a gesture in front of his chest with one hand and pressed on his dantian with the other. Forward! A deep sound surrounded him. Lu Cheng seemed to have spat out all the fear in his heart. Good! Pang Liyun pressed and swung his waist and naturally used force concentration. He displayed the Heavenly Punishment Hammer, one of the 24 hammering techniques of the Thunder Sect. He swung his right arm and hit Lu Cheng from above, not giving him any chance to dodge. The Heavenly Punishment of Thunder had its own vibration. Lu Cheng followed suit and poured his strength into his right arm. His flesh didn't swell but tightened instead. He swung his fist upwards without any hesitation. Skyward punch! Boom! In the arena, the sound of an explosion suddenly sounded. The shockwave rolled out in all directions with their fists as the center. Lu Cheng's feet almost sank into the ground, but because of this, the surrounding area cracked and damaged his shoes. He had to shake his body and was about to retreat. Suddenly, He took a deep breath and condensed the influence of the rolling qi and blood and the vibration at one point. He steadied his center of gravity, borrowed strength, and pulled out his left leg tightly. Double explosion. Mega avalanche. Peng Liyun did the same. He exploded his Dan force again and kicked out his leg as fast as lightning. Bang! 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 Lu Cheng incorporated the brutal blizzard into the continuous explosion and shook Zen frequently, tit for tat with Peng Liyun. Triple explosion, quadruple explosion, quintuple explosion, and sextuple explosion. The place where they fought was full of wind and waves. Debris splashed everywhere and kept making the sound of explosions. 7 explosion, 8 explosion, 9 explosion, and 10 explosion. Lu Cheng was forced to retreat continuously, but the frequency was getting lower and lower. With the help of the 24 blizzard strikes, he was gradually able to fight evenly with Peng Liyun. Peng Liyun, on the other hand, was getting fiercer and fiercer. There was no sign of weakness at all. The area where they were fighting fiercely was trampled into obvious pits and filled with smoke and dust. Bang! 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 Every collision sound was like a bomb falling and exploding in the hearts of Su Wanyan and others. Feng Zhirong couldn't help but tear off the white towel on his head and stare at the arena in a daze. Awesome! Awesome! The bullet screen was full of similar cries. Damn it! Lu Cheng can keep up with the 10 explosion? This is the highest level competition below the inhuman level, right? I want to find someone to fight with. Ask a girl to get out of here. No, fight with me. Bang! Lu Cheng's martial arts shoes were completely broken and turned into butterflies flying around. Peng Liyun's martial arts shoes were broken inch by inch and opened silently. One of them hit the other with a backhand, and the other with a fist to the chest, and each made 11 explosion. After entering the Dan stage, Lu Cheng could make 5 explosion without relying on the Jin Dan. After 2 awakenings of supernatural ability, practicing the Dan stage kung fu, and practicing the swordsman formula, he had already broken through the limits of the human body. His physical quality had more than doubled. Without the Jin Dan, he could make 12 explosion. Peng Liyun could make 10 explosion when he fought with Ren Li in the first half of the year, not to mention now that he was close to the inhuman level. He could be called a monster. Just based on this, they were able to firmly suppress Feng Zhirong's group. Bang! The bright white fist collided with the dark blue fist. Lu Cheng felt that Peng Liyun's strength was stronger than before, so he couldn't help but take 2 steps back, leaving a dent in the ground. Peng Liyun staggered a few times and didn't attack in time. After this, the two finally separated and took a break. The internal training dissolved the remaining effect of the tremor punch, which interrupted the crazy continuous explosion. They had just made force concentration one after another, so their physical condition hadn't recovered completely. When the fight was interrupted, the audience in the stands burst into thunderous roars and cheers. Yen Zheka and the others finally breathed a long sigh of relief. Some were happy, some were relieved, some were shocked, and some were shocked. Week 6th Pin. In the office of the Martial Arts Club of Capital College, Renli looked at the projection and said these 3 words. Week 6th Pin? Shen Yu, Jiang Kongchan and the others knew that Morningstar was talking about Lu Cheng. They couldn't help but look at each other and recall the fight just now. Lu Cheng improved from a week 7th pin to a week 6th pin in more than 4 months? Isn't this too exaggerated? Is there any justice in this world? What's more terrible is that Peng Liyun didn't leave any chance for his opponent. What level is he at? In the arena, Lu Cheng had the same idea. He even felt a little desperate. He had done his best, but Peng Liyun was still at ease. It seemed that no matter how he fought, Peng Liyun had a way and a trump card to deal with him. There was no chance for him to win. Lu Cheng recalled that there were several times when he didn't need to fight head-on with him, such as when they exchanged simplified physical invulnerability moves. But he did so, unlike when he fought with Ren Li in April, when he would dodge and contend. In other words, he had enough confidence and strength to deal with unexpected situations. This was not because Peng Liyun underestimated his opponent, but because when the opportunity was right, as a martial arts fanatic, he was more willing to experience his opponent's unique skill. Of course, this also fully showed that he was at ease. Maybe I can take advantage of his psychological inertia. Lu Cheng took a breath and rushed forward again, intending to use the double-edged sword move. In his mind, He visualized the frozen river, the solidified waves, and the scorching red sun in the sky. The sun fell from the sky and cut through the sky, causing the corresponding part of Lu Cheng's body to change and hit the ice hard. This was Lu Cheng's mutated version of severe warning. This time, the balance of the supernatural abilities of ice and fire would produce a different effect. It would hurt both the enemy and himself. Bam! Lu Cheng's back muscles bulged and shook. He swung his right arm and punched downwards. Peng Liyun had long been excited. He outlined the green thunder and silver lightning in his mind and let them bombard the ground, bursting into golden flames. The 15th move of the Thunder Sect, simplified physical invulnerability move, Thunderbolt Fire. It was a simplified version of the unique physical invulnerability move Heaven Golden Fire. Simplifying it even more, it was the lightning and fire stance that could create a short burst of power. Peng Liyun put his feet inward and bulged his muscles. He became a little taller and majestically raised the fire to burn the sky. He clenched his fist and rushed up. Boom! Ice and fire collided and cancelled each other out. They quickly condensed into a small dot and a vortex around Lu Cheng's fist. It absorbed and swallowed Peng Liyun's burning and paralyzing force. Peng Liyun's fist was stuck to Lu Cheng's hand and couldn't pull it away. Boom! The vortex lost its balance under the influence of the external force and exploded outward, throwing out a fierce force. Thump! 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 This was the first time Peng Liyun was beaten back by Lu Cheng. His body swayed, his spirit dimmed, and his mind was shaken. Lu Cheng endured the backlash of the explosion and took a step forward. He caught up with Peng Liyun and hit him with both hands. In this state, he couldn't do force concentration. With the absolute reaction, Peng Liyun's body shook and he regained his focus. He quickly gathered his Dan and raised his arms in front of him. At this moment, Lu Cheng's arm tendons bounced and retracted. He took a step and went behind Peng Liyun. He lowered his hands, one hook followed by the other. The crystal white cold light and the dangerous red flame hit Peng Liyun close to the ground. Burning ice and flame. At the same time, Lu Cheng's hands moved up and clasped each other. He tightened the corresponding muscles and hammered from the top right to the bottom left like a mountain-splitting giant, blocking Peng Liyun's escape route. This was the 19th move of the Ice Sect, Cold Devour. The cold came from all directions. At this moment, Lu Cheng felt that he had seen Peng Liyun's limit for the first time and that he had a chance to defeat him. Suddenly, Peng Liyun's body began to emit the sound of a turbine being turned on. Yin and Yang clashed, and the electricity generated magnetism. A terrifying repulsive force erupted, slowing down the descent of the mountain-shattering quake, as well as the speed of the cold light and the flames. Bam! Before the mountain smash punch fell, Peng Liyun jumped up and let the burning ice and flames slide under his feet. They exploded in the distance and filled the air with white fog. The light in his eyes turned into lightning and gathered into a ball. At the same time, he bent his arm and hit Lu Cheng's fist with his elbow. The thunder seal in his mind floated in the void, with sparks flying everywhere. Bam! Lu Cheng, who was affected by the double-edged sword, couldn't react in time and was hit by the fist. He felt a strong sense of numbness entering his body. His hair stood on end and his heart seemed to have stopped beating. His internal organs were hurt and he obviously suffered internal injuries. When he recovered, Peng Liyun had turned around and his fist stopped in between his eyebrows. The god's favored one was panting heavily, sweat dripping from his forehead. He was no longer at ease like before. But the referee also raised his right hand and announced the result. Round 3, Peng Liyun wins. Lu Cheng was in a trance and seemed to be affected by the electric force. Peng Liyun is really good. He bitterly closed his eyes. Chapter 335. As expected of Peng Liyun. When Lu Cheng finally saw the light of victory, he was instantly turned around and ushered in the arrival of failure. Strong depression filled Lu Cheng's heart. If he had not held on to hope, he would not be so upset and self-reproach now. How pure the joy was just now was how painful the pain was now. More than 4 months of patience, more than 4 months of bitter training, more than 4 months of anticipation. In the end, all came to naught and turned into flowing water. What a joke. I had promised Ku that I would teach Peng Liyun an unforgettable lesson together with Lin Quebec. I wanted to suppress his willpower, affect his confidence in winning, and slow down his speed of breaking through to the inhuman stage. I wanted to preserve my hope for next year's finals. But now, I had been slapped in the face. I didn't have the face to face my parents anymore. Perhaps it was fortunate that I was a low-key person and had only said such words in front of Ku. Otherwise, who knew how much ridicule and sarcasm would have come from all directions? If I had been the first to fight, defeated Feng Zhirong with the advantage of the wrong position, and challenged Pang Leyun in peak condition, my brother-in-law would have had a chance to defeat this monster, right? If I had not been so anxious just now, not been scared by Pang Leyun's ease, not hurried to use the variant version of severe warning, and not relied on my abnormal physical strength and the replenishment of Gene Dan to grind for a while, would things have been different? When a person encountered a setback, it was hard to restrain himself from thinking that if he had made a different choice at that time, or if he had done better in some details, the result would have been different. Lu Cheng was no exception. But the more he thought about it, the more upset and painful he felt, and even a little bit angry at himself. Taking a breath, he visualized the ice mirror and put away all his thoughts. Lu Cheng nodded to Pang Leyun, who was gasping for breath, and turned around, walking towards the stone steps. His muscles were still trembling. His internal organs were extremely uncomfortable, and there was a salty taste of rust in his throat, as if he was preparing to spit out blood. Not only did he lose, but he also suffered a serious internal injury. Lu Cheng sighed secretly and shook his head bitterly. At this moment, the Shanbei students in the stands suddenly started to applaud, from sparse to enthusiastic, from noisy to orderly, for the wonderful fight just now, and also for the admirable opponent Lu Cheng. You walked out of the arena with your head held high. As the applause echoed, Yan Shaoling suddenly burst into tears. She was moved by everyone's recognition of Lu Cheng, but she was also sad about the previous loss. Lu Cheng had played so well, so why did they let him lose? The cruelty of a match was that most of the time, and in this match the winner was Pang Leyun. Listening to his opponent's applause, Lu Cheng exhaled a sigh of relief, but the depression and pain in his heart. Halfway through their journey, they met Li Mao. He forced a smile, extended his right hand, and high-fived Li Mao. Really? Maybe he's already at his limit and wants me to take advantage of him? Do your best. Lu Cheng didn't say much. He nodded and walked past Li Mao to the seats. Yan Zheka, dressed in white, walked up to him. The girl's eyes were a little red. She bit her lower lip and said firmly, "You fought very well. Even if you lost, I'm proud of you." If it were others, Lu Cheng wouldn't be in the mood to respond. But he couldn't treat Coach Yan like that. He smiled bitterly and said, "I hope next time you can say, 'You fought very well,' or 'You are so good.' 'You fought very well' meant that you lost the battle but made a respectable performance. 'You fought very well' meant that you won the match to your heart's content." Yes. Yan Zheka nodded hard. She knew that Lu Cheng didn't want to hear comforting words, so she reached out and held his palm, silently trying to pass her warmth to him. If someone shared the pain, would it be less painful? Yan Zheka supported Lu Cheng to sit down, lost in thought. Listening to the applause from the computer, Chu Hui, who was wearing a tuxedo and a top hat, turned pale. He was no longer in high spirits at the beginning. Are these two guys still King human? If it was Pang Leyun, I could accept it. He had been strong for more than 2 years. It was not unacceptable that he became a monster who was close to the inhuman level. Anyway, I was used to losing to him. I didn't even think about winning against Shanbei. However, it had only been 4 months. How did Lu Cheng become so powerful that people could only look up at him? How did he suddenly become so strong? I thought he had a chance to defeat me. How can I fight him? How can I fight next week? Chu Hui turned his head and looked at Luo Hei's, Yin Xiangxi and the other team members. He saw that they were all scared. Some were dull, some were confused, and some were trembling. The gap is so big that I don't want to catch up. Chu Hui looked back painfully and saw the close-up of Lu Cheng. He noticed that something was wrong with him. He was suddenly happy and blurted out, "Lu Cheng is injured." And it was not the kind of injury that could be healed quickly. I knew very well how terrible Pang Leyun's Thunder Force combined with a simplified physical invulnerability move was. I had been hit by it without any protection and had to recuperate for nearly 2 months. Lu Cheng's physical quality was much better than mine. But Peng Leyun was not what he used to be. Without half a month's rest, Lu Cheng would not be able to recover. Lu Cheng is injured? Luo Hei's, Yin Xiangxi and the others were startled, and asked with hidden joy. Yes. Look at his current state. Pay attention to the replay later. See if he was hit directly by Peng Leyun's thunder seal. Chu Hui felt lucky and ecstatic as if he had just escaped from death. And Lin Ke was also hit by dark poison force. He probably won't be able to fight in his best state next week. Haha, I don't know what they are thinking. They clearly know that there is a big gap between them and Shanbei. Why do they still fight so hard? Isn't it convenient for us? I think we should pay tribute to their martial arts spirit and then enjoy this gift. In the midst of the ridicule, the Martial Arts Club of Sanjiang College confirmed Lu Cheng's situation through the slow-motion replay. They immediately released their accumulated depression and fear and became excited again. Our chance has come. Thank Lu Cheng and Lin Ke for their martial arts spirit and hard work. In the office of the Martial Arts Club of Capital College, Chen Digua, Shen Yu, Jiang Kongchan and the others were staring at the projection blankly, forgetting to speak and forgetting other things. The atmosphere was strangely quiet. For a moment, they thought Peng Leyun would lose. But unexpectedly, Lu Cheng, who had fought to such an extent, still failed to defeat the gods' favored one. After dozens of seconds, Chen Digua broke the silence with a wry smile. Shaoli, what level do you think Peng Leyun has reached? Ranli pondered and answered, he is one step away from the inhuman stage. One step away from the inhuman stage. Shen Yu, Jiang Kongchan and the others chewed on these words, feeling lost and awed. Ran Li's naturally hanging hands unconsciously clenched into fists. In front of the computer screen, Brahman let go of her hands that were pulling her braid, letting a few crystal-clear teardrops slide down her face and fall to the floor. She clicked open the forum and posted a post. Whoa. Why, he fought so well, why did you let him lose? Rub your head, it's good enough for him to fight like this, much better than I expected. I thought Lu Cheng would at most be at the level of a strong 7th, so I was afraid that he would lose to Peng Leyun, which would affect his confidence. Unparalleled Dragon King, comforted Brahman. 55555, I won't listen, I just want him to win. My heart aches when I see him like this. Brahman sent a covering ears and shaking head emoji. Nye Chi also sent a crying face emoji. I know it's good enough for him to fight with Peng Leyun like this, no, it's very good. But I can't help but feel sad, woo-woo. You girls, why are you all so fragile? Do you need the uncle to comfort you? You don't care about your heart, but your kidneys. Okamoto's fan joked and then sighed. I won't say any more, I can't make it up anymore. I'm going to smoke a cigarette to calm down. Hey, think about the gap between Lu Cheng and Peng Leyun half a year ago, and look at the gap now, you should be able to let it go, right? Road to the Arena said. Damn, Lu Cheng lost to Peng Leyun, who is at least a level stronger than him, and you are all so sad. When I was defeated by him, who had no rank, should I have jumped off a building? Fortunately, Lu Cheng has been advancing by leaps and bounds, so losing to him has become an interesting topic, not a disgrace. At this time, many cats suddenly replied, we know rationally that you are right, but we still cry out loud. In the live broadcast room of the video website, the guest commentator Zhang Hejing sighed with emotion. Wonderful. Wonderful. This match makes me want to move my old arms and legs. Lu Cheng is strong, Peng Leyun is stronger. The younger generation will surpass us in time. The host echoed, yeah, I didn't expect Lu Cheng to push Peng Leyun to this point. It seems that he is reaching his limit. Reaching his limit? No, Peng Leyun is just a little overloaded for a short time. But it doesn't mean that he has no strength to fight anymore. Hey, if Lu Cheng hadn't fought hard at the end, maybe we wouldn't have seen him in his overloaded state. Zhang He couldn't help but sigh. At the stage where you're advancing by leaps and bounds, at the age where you're at your most high-spirited, it's very sad and regrettable to meet such an opponent who can firmly suppress you. You mean Peng Leyun is stronger than what he showed just now? The host was stunned. Zhang Hejing nodded slightly and said, he is enjoying the match, not trying to win. I don't need to say more about the difference between the two, right? In other words, Peng Leyun is the strongest at the last moment? The host suddenly realized and asked. You can say that. Zhang Hejing sighed. Is this the god's favored son who aims to reach physical invulnerability? When I was at the peak of 6th pin, I was not so strong. While they were talking, the bullet screen refreshed one by one. It seemed that no one was paying attention to the battle between Li Mao and Pang Laiyun. I have to say that Lu Cheng is really strong. He can fight with Pang Laiyun to this extent after only practicing martial arts for more than a year. I'm on my knees watching. He is so tough that no one has a friend. He is indeed a candidate for the god's favored son, and he is more promising than others. After many positive affirmations of Lu Cheng, someone looked into the future and said, I can't imagine what level Lu Cheng will reach in half a year or a year. Will he be able to surpass Pang Laiyun? This sentence suddenly stirred up a hornet's nest and attracted a group of people to attack. Surpass Lu Zai? Ha ha ha, what a joke. As if Lu Zai won't improve. He will enter the inhuman level soon. How can a guy who relies on his supernatural ability and ancestral chromosomes be compared with Pang Laiyun? Didn't you listen to the commentary? Just now Lu Zai didn't use his full strength at all. Well, he didn't use his full strength and he fell down. Tisk tisk, if you have the ability to fight again, Pang Laiyun just had a few moves with Lin Quebec. If it's a one-on-one battle, Lu Cheng will be beaten to a pulp. Are you done yet? I'm just speculating based on the facts. Lu Cheng has improved from an ordinary person to a fighter close to professional 6th pin or even weaker than professional 6th pin after practicing martial arts for 1 year and 2 months. Give him another half a year or a year. Who knows how far he can go? Haha, I'm not laughing at him. Such a large span of improvement never lasts too long, and the higher he goes, the more difficult it is. Lu Cheng's speed of improvement will inevitably slow down. If he can enter the inhuman level within a year, I will live broadcast eating *tea. Yes, Lu Cheng is very powerful and a genius, but if you want to compare with Pang Laiyun, then I will answer you with a line from a comic. Trash. You are not good enough. Go to hell and eat *tea. I wonder if Lu Cheng will lose confidence after being beaten by Lu Zai. Just now I found that he was desperate. And a fighter without confidence is a salted fish, and it is difficult for him to improve again. The argument on the internet was very fierce. After the game, I wanted to see the bullet screen to see how they praised Lu Cheng's Brahmin. So hateful. I want to beat them. I want to quarrel with them. On the live arena, the battle between Li Mao and Pang Laiyun had begun. The latter did not turn away directly and left the opportunity of actual combat to Su Wanyan. Instead, he gave the greatest respect to his opponent, adjusted his breath, took a stance, and let him attack. This was the most hearty game Li Mao had ever played. 24 blizzard strikes was one move after another. The more he fought, the fiercer and crazier he became. There was almost no stagnation and no pause. Bang! He threw the most powerful punch he had ever thrown since he started practicing martial arts. He felt an incomparable sense of comfort. Pang Laiyun swung his waist and abdomen and raised his arms to block accurately, not moving an inch. Li Mao was about to attack again, but suddenly he felt that his body was empty and had no strength to continue. Unconsciously, he had finished one round of 24 blizzard strikes. Looking at Pang Laiyun, who was panting in front of him, Li Mao laughed at himself and said, "Thank you. Thank you for your help." After that, he turned and walked out of the arena without waiting for the referee's announcement. He sighed slightly without regret or loss. The referee raised his right hand and said, "Round 4, Pang Laiyun wins. Xiaofan University wins this game." In the home team seats, Su Wanyan waved his fist happily, feeling that he had escaped a disaster and did not have to face the monster who could bounce back, Corvine mouth. Feng Zhirong's eyes were gloomy and not very happy. He was brooding about his loss to Lin Quebec. On the other side of Songqing University, when Li Mao came back, they high-fived each other and returned to the locker room in silence. Lu Cheng, who was holding Yan Zheka's hand, turned around subconsciously and looked at the arena. He saw Pang Laiyun standing there, applauding to the crowd. The lights fell and covered him with a layer of golden brilliance. Lu Cheng withdrew his gaze, closed his eyes and entered the locker room. On the way back, the members of the martial arts club were silent. Kai Zhongming wanted to break the silence several times, but when the words came to his mouth, he was not in the mood to say them. Mu Jinyan and Yan Shaoling sat in the back row, looking at the silent Lin Quebec. They felt sorry for him and wanted to say something to comfort him, but in the end, they did not do so. Lu Cheng and Yen Zheka snuggled up to each other. Smelling the familiar fragrance and feeling the warmth that made them relax, they calmed down a lot and slowly got over it. Look, many people on the internet are praising you. Yen Zheka happened to read some comments on Weibo and saw the praise at the beginning. She quickly handed the phone to Lu Cheng with an expression that said, "Praise me." Lu Cheng read the comments one by one. Seeing that everyone was praising his strength and admiring the brilliance of the previous matches, a smile gradually appeared on his face. Yen Zheka also moved her head closer to him and read the comments together with him. From time to time, she slightly raised her white and delicate chin, revealing a sense of pride. But when Lu Cheng turned to the section where he compared himself with Peng Liyun, he found all kinds of ridicule, such as relying on supernatural ability and ancestral chromosomes, losing confidence after being beaten, and not enough, and a candidate is just a candidate. His temples twitched and his heart was filled with anger. He wanted to prove something, wanted to argue about right and wrong, but sadly found that the loser had no excuse. Only victory could counterattack everything. Yen Zheka bit her lips tightly, and her clear eyes were burning with anger, which made her look even brighter. She suppressed her anger and did not want to infect her boyfriend with this emotion. She reached out her finger to stop the discussion and pretended to be rational. Cheng, don't care about them. Some people are just bad for the sake of being bad. Okay. Lu Cheng wanted to turn around and comfort Coach Yen, but suddenly saw a long Weibo post from all-knowing man in ganghood, a well-known martial arts influencer. This defeat has more advantages than disadvantages for Lu Cheng. Ha! Why did he say that? Not only Lu Cheng, but also Yen Zheka was quite curious and quickly clicked to read. It is foreseeable that Lu Cheng will enter a period of slow improvement. Why do I say that? Everyone can see that every time Lu Cheng's strength rises, it is accompanied by the awakening of supernatural ability. It is obvious that the awakening of supernatural ability will greatly improve the quality of the body. Of course, the premise is that there is no obstacle in the realm. That is to say, if one does not enter the dance stage, the strength of the body will not change qualitatively even if the supernatural ability is awakened. Lu Cheng had the strength of a quasi-seventh fighter when he just entered the dance stage. He relied on his abnormal physical strength and the practice of the Frost Force in advance. He improved from a quasi-seventh fighter to a weak sixth fighter in a little more than 4 months because of the second awakening of the dual supernatural abilities of Ice and Fire and the honeymoon period, when he formally entered the dance stage. Now, this period has passed, and we all know that the awakening of supernatural ability is more difficult than the previous one. Lu Cheng will not have this kind of bonus in 1 or 2 years. In this way, it is foreseeable that the speed of improvement of his strength will slow down. By April next year, he can expect to improve from a weak sixth fighter to an ordinary sixth fighter after he has mastered more ice sect moves and related combat experience. The gap between him and Peng Liyun will be further widened. And this speed will accompany him for a long time. Whether he can enter the inhuman level without relying on the awakening of supernatural ability within 2 years will be the test of whether he can be considered a heavenly son of the age. This complete defeat came at the right time, so that he will not be arrogant. He can clearly understand the gap between himself and Peng Liyun and the fact that he may not be able to catch up in a few years. The advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Maybe this is a wake-up call. This Weibo post seemed to be speaking from Lu Cheng's point of view, but the whole post was full of condescension and sinister thoughts that Lu Cheng relied on the awakening of supernatural ability to improve by leaps and bounds. In other words, it was implying that Lu Cheng was not as good as Peng Liyun and that he would have to get used to mediocrity and depression. Yen Zheka gritted her teeth and quietly clenched her fists. This person is talking nonsense. Cheng, don't pay attention to him. Okay. Lu Cheng exhaled. In fact, all-knowing man in ganghood was right about some things. The benefits of his rapid improvement were indeed running out. The awakening of supernatural ability was not something that could be considered at this stage. The changes to the body caused by the practice of dance stage were getting weaker and weaker. It was entering the stage where it needed to be accumulated over time. Only the internal practice of the swordsman formula could be looked forward to. Because of this, he became angrier and angrier about this comment because he could not refute it. Looking at his expression, Yen Zheka pursed her lips and rolled her eyes, as if she was thinking about something. When they returned to the new campus of Songqing University, the sky was already dark. They waved to each other and said goodbye in low spirits. Mu Jinyan could not control her footsteps and followed Lin Quebec looking at his silent back. She kept thinking of comforting him. No, I know Lin K won't want to be comforted. She restrained herself and stayed 2 steps behind Lin K to accompany him. When they were approaching the 9th dormitory, Lin K suddenly stopped and turned to look at Mu Jinyan. Do you have a pen and paper? Ah! Mu Jinyan was stunned. He is talking to me? He is talking to me for the first time. He knows I want an autograph? She came to her senses and hurriedly took off her backpack. She took out a pen and a sticky note and handed them to Lin Quebec. Lin K did not say anything and quickly wrote a line of words. Thank you for not comforting me. Thank you for not comforting me. Mu Jinyan took back the sticky note and saw Lin K turn around and walk into the dormitory. His eyes were painful, but his back was straight. I will always support you. Mu Jinyan shouted, no longer caring about other people's opinions. Lu Cheng was pulled to the lakeside by Yan Zheka. They passed through the woods and came to the deserted western district. What are we doing here? He could not help but ask. Follow me. Yan Zheka had never been here before. She only came here when she was abducted by Lu Cheng. But she noticed something around with her girl's special attention and sensitivity. She took Lu Cheng to an unfinished building. She pointed up and said, let's go to the roof. I want to feel the breeze. This building was planned to be the library of the new campus. It would replace the temporary one and become the largest library in the province and one of the best in the country. Okay. Lu Cheng understood that the girl wanted him to see the distance and feel the cool breeze. So he did not refuse. Along the stairs, they walked slowly. After a long time, they finally came to the top and saw the scenery without guardrails. Looking down from above, the eastern district was brightly lit. The lake reflected the light. The scenery was so charming and refreshing. Lu Cheng's depression in his heart seemed to be relieved. Let's sit on the side. Yan Zheka suggested. She was not afraid of heights at all. Lu Cheng took the tissue and spread it on the edge. He sat down with the girl leaning against each other. They breathed in the cool breeze and looked at the open sky. Suddenly, Yan Zheka looked ahead and said, Cheng, do you remember I sang for you? Yes, you were cheering for me. Lu Cheng smiled. Yan Zheka pursed her lips into a smile and said gently, then I'll sing for you again. Without waiting for Lu Cheng to answer, she faced the open sky and hummed softly, running forward. Facing the cold eyes and ridicule, how can you feel the vastness of life without suffering? Fate can't make us kneel and beg for mercy, even if blood is spilled all over our arms. The girl's clear and melodious voice echoed in his ears. In front of him was a vast expanse of land that stretched as far as the eye could see. It was the Milky Way that flowed in the darkness. It was her black hair that fluttered in the wind. For a moment, Lu Cheng actually felt a little drunk. His emotions gradually emptied and his heart gained strength again. Failure was not terrible. What was terrible was losing the will to fight and confidence. Then keep running forward, facing the cold eyes and ridicule. Keep running, with the pride of a newborn. How can you see the brilliance of life without persevering to the end instead of lingering at death's door? Why not burn heartily? One day it will sprout again. The song lingered in the air. Chapter 336. The cold wind was blowing and the night was quiet. Looking at Yan Zheka, who had just finished singing, Lu Cheng felt relaxed and calm. His gloominess had completely faded away. She took a deep breath and glanced at him. She raised her chin and hummed deliberately. My singing was not bad, right? Her 2 feet dangled outside the building, swaying lightly and playfully. Not only was it not bad. Lu Cheng laughed and reached out to hold Yan Zheka's waist, letting her lean her head on his shoulder. He looked at the Weishui Lake in the distance and said with a bit of self-mockery, people will always be greedy little by little. At first, I didn't have much confidence in defeating Pang Layun. Although I said that in front of you, I was actually quite nervous. I thought that not only should I join hands with your brother, but also the effect of the second awakening of the supernatural ability of fire was not worse than expected. I also hoped that we could face Pang Layun in our best condition and just try our best to beat him. I didn't expect to beat Shanbei in the end. However, as the second awakening of the supernatural ability of fire brought about an obvious improvement, and as my dance stage cultivation progressed by leaps and bounds, I gradually gained confidence. I was no longer satisfied with my previous thoughts, and I no longer felt that overthrowing Xiaofan was an impossible task. When I obtained the Jia formula, the Army formula, and the Qian formula, and mastered them quickly, I became even more ambitious. I felt that I could compete with Peng Liyun. I knew that I was definitely weaker than him, but I no longer thought that this gap was insurmountable. I was able to defeat Zhang Zhutong and Han Zhifei in the past. Now I have the hope to defeat Peng Liyun. Don't laugh. I did think so before. Even though your brother fought hard with Feng Zhirong and didn't cause much damage to Peng Liyun, I was still full of hope before the battle. But reality taught me a lesson. I tried my best, but Peng Liyun seemed to be at ease. It seemed that no matter how I fought, he could firmly suppress me. If I hadn't risked using the variant severe warning at the end, I'm afraid I wouldn't have seen his strongest side. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. The truth is crueler. That's why I was so upset and depressed and easily angry at others' bad comments. Now that I think about it, I was a little too arrogant. Yan Zheka pursed her lips and smiled as she listened to Lu Cheng's analysis of her inner thoughts. Isn't it said that men don't want to expose their embarrassing failures in front of girls? Yes, the so-called pride and self-esteem of men. Cheng, why are you telling me this? Lu Cheng chuckled. Because you are Coach Yan, the mentor of my life. It's good that you remember. Yan Zheka immediately beamed with joy and deliberately said in an old-fashioned tone, Then what do you think now? What made her the happiest was that Cheng seemed to have walked out of the shadow of failure. Thoughts? Yes, recognize the gap and catch up. Ku, I have a small goal. I want to defeat Xiaofan before Peng Liyun graduates. Without waiting for Yan Zheka's answer, he suddenly added, I heard that Peng Liyun doesn't like to take the stairs through the front door. Instead, he habitually jumps out of the window. Is that true? Yan Zheka was startled and blurted out, What do you want? Based on his understanding of Cheng, he wouldn't mention this for no reason. Lu Cheng looked down at the frightening scene and said with a smile, I want to try. Do you want to join me? Although Yan Zheka wasn't afraid of heights, she didn't want to commit suicide and didn't have a hobby of jumping off a building. Looking at the ground far away and the scene that could make a person with acrophobia weak in the knees, she reflexively opened her mouth to refuse. At this moment, Lu Cheng turned to look at her and smiled calmly. Trust me. Hearing this, Yan Zheka gently bit her pink lips and nodded, saying, Yes. Yes. As soon as she finished speaking, she felt herself being pulled over by Lu Cheng and carried in a princess carry, with one hand holding the crook of her leg and the other holding her back. Why this position? Yan Zheka was so shy that she hit Lu Cheng. This was the first time she was carried in a princess carry. No, how could he carry her in a princess carry at this time? Lu Cheng chuckled and answered, If the situation goes wrong, this position makes it easier for me to throw you out. No matter what, he couldn't let his little fairy get hurt. While Yan Zheka was still thinking about this sentence, she suddenly found Lu Cheng jumping forward. She suddenly felt the wind in her ears become fierce. Her body fell rapidly and her hair was flying wildly. The ground was getting closer and closer, bigger and bigger. Yan Zheka, who was used to being rational, felt her hair stand on end. She instinctively wanted to scream, as if she had heard the knock of the Grim Reaper on the door. Was this the excitement of bungee jumping? But now it was even more terrible than bungee jumping. There was no rope around her waist. Was this the feeling between life and death? She subconsciously hugged Lu Cheng tightly and leaned her face against the place that made her feel safe. When they were about to hit the ground, Lu Cheng suddenly condensed his chi and blood, force and spirit, hugging and releasing. His body seemed to expand and expand, changing the friction with the air and gliding forward in a small arc bang. He stepped on the ground and the ground seemed to shake. Straightening his back and transmitting the force, Lu Cheng carried Yan Zheka in a princess carry and took a big step forward, as light as a feather. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. He completely neutralized all the force of the recoil, and didn't let the girl feel uncomfortable at all. Done? Yan Zheka's long eyelashes fluttered and looked around. She actually didn't close her eyes just now and just looked straight at the ground. Coach Yan, we landed safely. With this jump, Lu Cheng vented all his negative emotions and gave a humorous answer in an excited tone. Yen Zheka laughed and struggled to stand up straight. She kept tidying her long hair with both hands and looked around with bright eyes. Her cheeks were flushed with excitement, like a child who played an interesting game. Was it fun? Was it exciting? Lu Cheng asked cheerfully. Yes. Yen Zheka nodded hard and admitted honestly. She was always led by Cheng to do bad things. Suddenly, she remembered something and raised her eyebrows. You still have internal injuries. How can you jump just like that? Aren't you afraid of adding more injuries to your injuries? I'm fine, aren't I? Lu Cheng moved his body to show that he was fine and then said with a smile, I'm young, so I have to be frivolous. Humph, it's not me who is injured anyway. Yen Zheka knew that her boyfriend mainly wanted to vent. Seeing that he was fine, she didn't say more. But Lu Cheng was still excited. He turned around and squatted down. Come, I'll carry you. I'm not tired. My feet are not sore. Yen Zheka answered with a confused face. What's the matter? What reason does a boyfriend need to carry his girlfriend? Lu Cheng smiled and didn't change his posture. Yen Zheka's eyes moved. She pursed her lips and turned her head, secretly spitting. But she walked briskly to him and bent down. Lu Cheng carried the girl on his back and strolled on the edge of the deserted western district. He listened to her softly humming a melodious song and chatted with her from time to time. Actually, my brother is more affected than you. I think so too. But he doesn't need or want sympathy or comfort. That's Lin Quebec. I believe he can eventually catch up. Laggards may not always be laggards. Are you encouraging me in a disguised way? If you say so, then so be it. You can talk all you want, but can you not always blow into my ear? So what if I blow into your ear? You even kissed me. You can kiss me too. I don't mind. Rogue. The moonlight was gentle, and the barren land was beautiful. The next morning, despite his internal injuries, Lu Cheng woke up early as usual. He went to the Weishui Lake and started practicing the swordsman formula in the cool breeze. Relying on his inner vision state and the dance stage martial artist's ability to control minute details, he repaired the disharmony in his body little by little. Geezer Sher stood beside him with his arms folded. He said casually, the swordsman formula has a good healing effect. I'll teach you the healing skills of the ice sect when I have time. How long do you think it will take for you to fully recover? 11 or 12 days, if there's no fierce battle. Lu Cheng said with a little guilty. He was young and frivolous last night and jumped off the building. Otherwise, he would have recovered in less than 10 days. Since he could use inner vision, he could accurately judge the recovery of his injuries. Geezer Sher snorted. You took longer than me. Can you fight in the next round? Yes. It'll be stable in 7 days. It won't worsen the injury if it's not a fight like the last one. Lu Cheng answered without hesitation. Although he could only use 70 to 80% of his strength, it was enough to teach those who wanted to take advantage of him a lesson. After the morning exercise, it was still the special training as usual. But Geezer Sher didn't watch quietly as usual. He only gave a few pointers and corrected them. Instead, he stood in front of the team, looked around, and said with a smile, I had something to say when I saw you guys like frosted eggplants yesterday. But after thinking about it, I think it's better to give you guys a night to experience it. It'll leave a deep impression. Seeing that Lu Cheng and Li Mao were a little ashamed, Geezer Sher waved his hand and said, It's normal to feel pain, sadness, and unhappiness after losing an important match. It's not a sign of weakness. It only shows that you care, that you still have the desire and drive. Those who can recover immediately after losing a battle, calm down immediately, and laugh immediately are not mature, but numb. They don't care enough. They are numb to failure, numb to martial arts, and lose enthusiasm for winning or losing. They don't care enough. I don't dare to say about other professions, but on the path of martial arts, such warriors often lose the desire and drive to move forward. They are willing to accept failure, compromise, and surrender in front of the strong. You guys are not bad. You didn't feel that Shanbei was just a formality. Look at Dragon King. No matter what the reason is, as long as he loses an important battle, he is really unapproachable. His face is so black that it can drip water. But he's good at turning this pain into fuel to move forward. You guys should learn from him. Don't always be depressed and get stuck in it. Lu Cheng and the others nodded repeatedly. They were all enlightened. At this time, Geezer Shi said with a serious expression, "Were you sad yesterday?" "Yes." Lu Cheng and the others were stunned for a while before answering in unison. "Were you in pain?" Geezer Shi asked again. "Yes." Lin Ke hesitated and followed the others. Hearing this, Geezer Shi suddenly laughed and scolded, "Since you know how to be sad and feel pain, why don't you all go back to practice hard?" Yes. The morale of Lu Cheng and the others was lifted again. Seeing that they began to practice and heal, Geezer Shi smiled and took out the flagon to drink. What was it called in the words of the young people? Cool. Chapter 337. It was drizzling lightly, knocking on the windowsill and isolating the noise from the outside world. Combined with the words, Sunday morning, it created a lazy atmosphere that made people unwilling to open their eyes or leave their bed. Yan Xiaoling wrapped herself in the quilt and didn't want to wake up. In her dream, she seemed to be able to forget yesterday's failure and sadness and not worry about anything. She had a bad habit of sleeping intermittently and looking at her phone from time to time when she woke up. Her good skill was to turn over and fall asleep quickly. She forced herself to open her eyes and put her phone under the warm quilt. Yan Xiaoling unlocked the screen and refreshed the campus forum she had browsed before. She saw a new post marked in red. Is there anyone who wants to cheer for the martial arts club now? Cheer for the martial arts club? Wasn't the match yesterday? Am I hallucinating? Yan Xiaoling rubbed her face and clicked on the post. The poster said, I watched the match between the martial arts club and Shanbei. It made my blood boil and I feel sorry for them. They fought so well but still had to bear the pain of failure. I feel that I should do something for them. Is there anyone who wants to go to the martial arts arena to show support? Now, boys or girls are welcome. Well, Yan Xiaoling scrolled down and found a lot of replies. The more she read, the more impulsive she became. Finally, she conquered the cold of the winter morning and pulled herself out of the comfortable bed. She put on a long down jacket, opened the dormitory door and ran into the bone-chilling north wind. As a girl from Yanling, she couldn't adapt to the southern winter at all. In the martial arts arena, Lu Cheng practiced the swordsman formula internally for a while and then took a break. He knew how to relax and tighten, which fully showed the identity of the injured. During this process, he noticed that students were coming in one after another. They walked to the stands on both sides and sat down in a mess. What's going on? Lu Cheng, who was correcting and guiding Yan Zhaka, was puzzled. He couldn't figure out what was going on. Flash. Doesn't seem like it. Cheng, look, there are so many students. We didn't have so many students watching us during the special training. Yan Zhaka also sensed that something was wrong. Taking advantage of her boyfriend's approach, she raised her chin toward the stands. Yeah, it's making me nervous. I'm always afraid of making big news. Lu Cheng looked around and answered in a low voice. At this moment, Kai Zhongming's eyes met his as he was looking around. He said excitedly, Cheng, did you see that? Some of our classmates even came to watch our training, and there were so many of them. This is the rhythm of becoming famous. This is the treatment of a martial arts expert. It can't be that bad, right? Lu Cheng was stunned. Kai Zhongming was about to make up a set of self-justifying theories when he suddenly saw the students who came on Sunday morning stand up. They formed a loudspeaker with their hands and shouted to the special training members, Good luck! Keep it up! Their voices echoed in the slightly spacious stadium. Lu Cheng and the others were stunned for a moment, but they soon realized that the students were expressing their support for yesterday's competition. Keep up the good work means that you guys did very, very well in the last match. Good luck! Keep it up! The scattered voices became more and more orderly and gradually merged into one. Lu Cheng and the others seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. They became more motivated and passionate in training. Quick, take a picture. Xu Rui's eyes were slightly red, and she ordered the cameraman with shining eyes. What a great bunch of classmates. What a loving picture. When everyone left reluctantly, the special training was coming to an end. Xu Rui finally found a chance to record the post-match match that she was too embarrassed to do yesterday. She decided to start with the most difficult part. Lin Ke, How's your recovery? Has the dark poison force been completely eliminated? Xu Rui put on a friendly smile. She couldn't be wrong to start with words of concern. Lin Ke panted and sweated. He glanced at her and said, "Secret." "Secret? Secret again. What a damn secret." Xu Rui's mouth was half open, and the corner of her eyes twitched. After taking a deep breath, she maintained her professional smile and said, "Are you afraid that Sanjiang College will find out about the progress of your recovery?" "Well, I'll change the question. You seem to be in good spirits. It seems that you have walked out of the influence of failure." "No." Lin Ke answered very seriously. What an honest boy. Xu Rui had the urge to cover her face and sigh, but she still smiled gracefully. "Why do you say so? You don't look like one." "Failure inspires me to move forward," Lin Ke said concisely. What a standard answer. "I feel like I've been tricked." Xu Rui silently watched Lin Ke turn around and walk to the locker room. She collected herself and stopped Lu Cheng. She smiled and said, "You seem to be in a good mood. Young people don't fail." Lu Cheng laughed. "I like to chat with young people like you. I feel full of vitality again." Xu Rui made fun of herself. "About yesterday's match, what do you think?" "I found the gap. Well, I also saw the hope and set a goal." Lu Cheng said frankly, not hiding anything. "You have momentum." Xu Rui gave him a thumbs up and praised him sincerely. She didn't want to pester him and turned to Yan Zheka. "Is it a pity that you didn't play yesterday?" She passed the microphone to Yan Zheka. Yan Zheka pursed her lips and smiled. "Yes. Although I couldn't have changed anything, it was still a pity. I heard that Pang Liyun likes to take shortcuts by jumping off buildings. That's the strength of a professional sixth pin in the dance stage. Has Lu Qing done something similar before?" Xu Rui asked. She asked casually, but Yan Zheka was startled. She was almost stunned. Reporter Xu asked this on purpose, didn't she? Did she mean it? Cheng just hugged me and experienced that kind of excitement last night, and she asked this question this morning. Isn't it too much of a coincidence? Did someone see it and expose it last night? That kind of thing. She looked at Xu Rui suspiciously and then smiled sweetly with dimples. Good kids don't imitate dangerous moves. Well, that's it. Ah. Xu Rui was confused by Yan Zheka's irrelevant answer. In a hurry to catch up on homework, it was already 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, December 28th. Songqing University Martial Arts Club would challenge Sanjiang College Martial Arts Club on Sunday. If they lost, they would have no chance to enter the finals of this martial arts competition. To be cautious, they packed their luggage and gathered at the bus station. They planned to leave one day earlier and use the whole night to rest up so that they wouldn't be affected by the long journey. In front of the bus, Xu Rui stood with the microphone in her hand. With the camera as the background, she said to Lu Cheng, Lin Ke and the others, "Another expedition is coming. Don't you want to say something?" Say something? While Lu Cheng and Yan Zheka were thinking, Little Ming's eyes lit up. He patted each of them on the shoulder and whispered something. Then Lu Cheng and Yan Zheka put their arms around each other's shoulders. Yan Zheka was next to He Zi, and He Zi was next to Mu Jinyan. Everyone participated in the same action and formed an arc. They bowed their backs and shouted in unison, "We want to win. No matter who our opponent is, we want to win." December 29th, Sunday afternoon, 2:50 p.m., in the martial arts arena of Sanjiang College. In the locker room of the home team, Chu Hui was wearing a black tuxedo and a top hat. He looked around at Luo Hei's, Yin Xiangxi and the others and said solemnly, "Lu Cheng's internal injury hasn't healed, and Lin Ke is affected by the dark poison force. He's definitely not in his best condition. This is our chance. I have to admit, no matter in which industry or circle, luck is a very important thing. And this time, it belongs to us. If we didn't meet Songqing University in the second round, and if Songqing University didn't fight so hard against Shanbei, we wouldn't have any hope. But now, we have a big chance of winning. Since we have a good chance of winning, we can't miss it. We can't miss it because of our own mistakes. There's an old saying that goes, if you don't take what God gives, you'll be punished. If you don't take what God gives, you'll be punished." Luo Hei's, Yin Xiangxi and the others silently repeated these words. They were a little excited by the president's words. In the locker room of the away team, Geezer Shi looked at Lu Cheng and Lin Kei and asked, "You two brats, can you fight?" Lu Cheng and Lin Kei didn't look at each other, but they shouted at the same time, "Yes." Chapter 338. Since all of you can fight, we don't need to care about the order. Geezer Shi had an indifferent look on his face. "Little Yen, you'll be the vanguard. You'll gain more combat experience." Yen Zheka answered in a clear voice. Geezer Shi looked at Lin Quebec. "You'll be the second one. Don't fight too hard. Don't let the last bit of poison come back and leave a bad effect." He made it sound very serious on purpose so that Lin Kei wouldn't overhear it. Lin Kei nodded slightly with an expressionless face. Geezer Shi glanced at Lu Cheng. "Brat, take it easy in the end." "Yes, master." After a week of treatment, Lu Cheng was eager to fight in the arena. In the locker room of the home team, Chu Hui looked at Luo Hei's and Yin Xiangxi and shook his head with a smile. "It's a pity that the substitutes of Songqing University are much stronger. Otherwise, you two can take turns to fight Lin Kei and I can fight Lu Cheng alone. That would be easy." "Yeah, the substitutes of Songqing University are much stronger. It's not that easy to defeat them." Yin Xiangxi sighed. Yen Zheka was a professional 9th pin fighter, Li Mao was close to professional 9th pin, and Sun Jian, Lin Hua, and Kai Zhongming were all strong 1st pin fighters. It was not easy to defeat them. Luo Hei's echoed. "Unless we meet you, President." Chu Hui smiled reservedly. "I have to maintain my full strength to fight against Lu Cheng. I can't consume too much energy in advance. According to my estimation, Songqing University will definitely let the substitutes be the vanguard when the gap between you and the substitutes is not that big. Lu Cheng's internal injuries haven't healed yet, so he should be the one to hold the field. If he can avoid fighting, he should. If he can, he should." At this point, he turned his head to look at Yin Xiangxi. Li Mao has the problem of being nervous. Although it's not too serious, it still affects him to some extent. Yen Zheka has less actual combat experience and is a girl, so she tends to panic when encountering situations. Sun Jian and Kai Zhongming are relatively weaker, so they are all restrained by your fighting style. You'll be the first one to fight. Fight fiercely and scare them. Try to win quickly. Okay. Yin Xiangxi clenched his fists, eager to try. He was known for not blocking or blocking, only attacking and not defending. He was good at seizing opportunities with courage and judgment in a split second. His fighting style was very aggressive and could scare people. In short, you and Hai Zhe should exhaust Lin Kei as much as possible. Don't let me be distracted by him. This is the key to victory, Chu Hui said with high fighting spirit. In the blink of an eye, the match was about to begin. Led by Geezer Shi, Lu Cheng, Yen Zheka and the others walked out of the locker room and went to the guest team seats in a single file. She would wait until Yin Xiangxi was exhausted, and when the perfect opportunity appeared, she would seize it without hesitation and firmly launch a counterattack to kill him with one blow. Clear the stage with one pole. Don't be stubborn for long. The two squeezed each other's hands. Yen Zheka stood up and bumped fists with Lin Kei, Li Mao, and the others. Then she walked to the stone steps unhurriedly. The boos became louder, mixed with a lot of flirtatious whistles. The atmosphere in the stadium was heating up again. Step by step, Yen Zheka stepped onto the arena. She saw Yin Xiangxi from the corner of her eye, who was already in position. He was a handsome boy with a straight beard. He looked thin and reserved, but in fact, he was crazy and aggressive. Yin Xiangxi's gaze was also involuntarily attracted by her. He only felt that his opponent was bright and beautiful. Her starry eyes tugged at his heartstrings, making him unable to be ruthless. He instinctively wanted to pay attention to his demeanor and show his gentlemanly side. He shook his head and suppressed the ripples in his heart. Ferocity was brewing in his heart again. Sometimes, being handsome and beautiful was equivalent to being born with a supernatural ability. The supernatural ability to charm. When Yen Zheka stood properly and got into her stance, the referee looked at the clock. After a dozen seconds, he raised his right hand and said, "Talk time starts now." This match, which determined who would advance and who would be eliminated, had officially begun. If Songqing University won, Songqing University would follow Shanbei University into the national competition, while Songqing University would have to start all over again. Yin Xiangxi took a breath and didn't say anything. He just stared at Yen Zheka with a dangerous look. Was this the legendary killing with a look? Yen Zheka wasn't scared or nervous. Instead, she inexplicably wanted to laugh. She remembered Cheng's ridicule. Two people would become more and more alike in some aspects after being together for a long time. The girl stopped thinking about it, ignored his gaze, and focused on adjusting her state. At the end, Yin Xiangxi suddenly opened his mouth and said with a smile, "Don't worry. I won't be too harsh." Did he mean that he didn't need to use his full strength to deal with her? Was he trying to provoke her by being frivolous? As this thought flashed through Yen Zheka's mind, the referee waved his right hand and announced loudly, "Start." "Humph. You've been led astray by my brother. You've learned to be silent for 3 minutes before saying something bad at the end." Yen Zheka thought for a moment and didn't get irritated. She swayed her waist and walked around Yin Xiangxi with light steps. Like a climbing mountain goat, she was nimble and balanced, not giving her opponent a chance to get close to attack her. She took advantage of the gap and suddenly moved to her opponent's side. She raised her right arm and punched down with a clenched fist. Yin Xiangxi didn't try to parry. He tightened his thighs and gave her a side kick, faster and fiercer. Bam! According to this trend, Yen Zheka would be kicked directly before she could hit her opponent. She calmed down, suppressed her impatience and panic, and adhered to her original fighting style. While Yin Xiangxi was kicking to the west, she swung her waist and slid to the back of her opponent. Her right fist moved diagonally, and under the explosive force of her shoulder, she smashed towards her opponent's temple. Bam! She lowered her waist and followed up with her left fist. 2 peaks piercing the ear. Yin Xiangxi suddenly bent his waist, shrank his head, and leaned back quickly. At the same time, he raised his elbow and was about to hit Yen Zheka's lower abdomen. No parry, just one hit. Yen Zheka didn't take advantage of this dangerous opportunity. She suddenly dispersed the force in her arms and jumped back. She took a few steps back lightly and harmoniously and quickly widened the distance between them. After a few moves, she gradually became familiar with Yin Xiangxi's fighting style. No longer nervous and flustered, she strictly followed the plan made before the competition. She continued to move around. If she couldn't hit her opponent, she would immediately retreat. Bam, 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 bam. Lu Cheng was a little worried when he heard the intermittent sounds on the field. Although he knew that the referee was a senior of Haidan stage and would be able to stop the attacks of 2 professional 9th pin fighters, he still couldn't help but worry that Yen Zheka would be hurt. On the other hand, Chu Hui, who was sitting in the home team seats, didn't look good. His expectation of a quick victory was ruined from the beginning. Didn't they say that Yen Zheka lacked actual combat experience? Didn't they say that girls were easy to panic? Why was she so experienced and clear-headed? She didn't fall into Xiangxi's rhythm at all, making him unable to use his strength. In this way, Lin Ke won't consume enough energy, and I won't be able to face Lu Cheng in good condition. Should I use that move? Just use it. Anyway, I'll be able to advance if I win this match. I never thought I'd win against Shanbei next week. After a while of moving around, Yen Zheka noticed that Yin Xiangxi's attacking momentum had decreased and he was obviously impatient. She immediately had a plan. Once again, she approached her opponent's side and visualized the scene of a mighty avalanche in her mind. She shook her shoulders and slightly raised her right arm, as if she was about to attack. Bam! Yin Xiangxi, who was a little anxious, once again gave a fierce side kick. At this moment, Yen Zheka bent her spine and forcibly changed her center of gravity. She pulled her body and slid behind her opponent when he was standing on one foot. Chapter 339. Bam! As soon as she got behind Yin Xiangxi, Yen Zheka exerted all her strength in her shaking shoulders. She shook her right arm and stabbed at Yin Xiangxi's temple like a big gun. Standing on one foot with his back to the enemy, Yin Xiangxi was in a precarious situation. It seemed that he had nowhere to run. At this critical moment, his courage did not diminish. He bent his spine like a bow and forcibly pulled back his left leg, which had missed the kick, and swept it backward. He leaned his body forward and took advantage of the momentum to avoid Yan Zheka's fatal blow. He still didn't make any move. Just one move. However, this time, Yan Zheka didn't continue to dodge like before. Instead, she resolutely took advantage of the momentum of her right arm's missed attack and jumped to the back of her opponent again. Taking advantage of her position in the center of the circle, she dodged the sweeping whip kick in time. Now that she had sensed her opponent's impatience and seized the perfect opportunity, she wouldn't hesitate to counterattack and kill him with one blow. One pole to clear the platform. Bam! She kicked out her right foot at Yin Xiangxi's supporting leg. At this point, Yin Xiangxi was already at the end of his rope. He had no choice but to throw himself forward and roll like a lazy donkey. Yan Zheka stepped on the ground with her right foot and slid closer. Then she kicked out her left leg at the opponent's chest. Bam! Yin Xiangxi barely raised his arm and took the kick. Bam! 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 Yan Zheka visualized the scene of brutal blizzard and kicked out her legs, one faster and harder than the other. Bam! 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 Lying on the ground, Yin Xiangxi couldn't exert his strength. After blocking 3 kicks with his hands, he was kicked away completely. Then Yan Zheka jumped forward and kicked at his throat. First round, Yan Zheka wins. The referee glanced and shouted, "Yes!" Yan Zheka was so excited that she turned around and waved her fist at the guest seats. Then she saw Lu Cheng jump up and hit the table with both hands. He was even more excited than she was. Who would have thought that he could beat Yin Xiangxi like this before the match? Things would be much easier if he could find a way to restrain his opponent and strictly execute it. Trash. Chu Hui swallowed the anger and grievance in his throat and did not curse out loud. Previously, he had pinned so much hope on Yin Xiangxi, thinking that it was quite possible for him to quickly become Songqing University's substitute. In the end, not only did he not win quickly, but he also lost to his opponent. How were they supposed to fight? His plan was ruined from the very beginning. He could only pray that Lu Cheng and Lin Kei's injuries were more serious than he had expected. Go, do your best. Chu Hui patted Luo Hei's shoulder weakly. Hopefully, he could exhaust Lin Kei a little more. Luo Hei stood up. His tall and broad stature was indeed a good material for practicing martial arts. In the ring, Yan Zheka, who had calmed down, realized that the muscles in her legs and feet were tight and sore. Her physical strength was close to the limit. Guerrilla fighting required high-speed movements, timely direction changes, and nimble footwork, which consumed a lot of physical strength. Yan Zheka and Yin Xiangxi had fought for several minutes, and at the end, they had even used 24 blizzard strikes with the help of the yin-yang twist, so it was normal for them to have such a reaction. She rested her hands on her knees and gasped for air. She saw Luo Hei stride past Yin Xiangxi, who had just left the arena. He should be able to exchange a few more moves. Behind him are my brother and Cheng. They all look like they want to fight. Well, it seems that I don't have to force myself. While thinking, Yan Zheka, who had slightly recovered, straightened her back, turned around, and walked to the edge of the ring. She left the arena along the stone steps. The referee looked at the stunned Luo Hei and activated his Dantian force. Second round, Luo Hei wins. I won. Luo Hei stared at Yan Zheka's back in a daze, as if he was dreaming. Lin Kei slid down his zipper, took off his jacket, high-fived Lu Cheng and the others, and walked to his cousin calmly. I won't say good luck. Yan Zheka pursed her lips and smiled. She raised her hand and bumped her cousin's fist. What she meant was that he didn't need to cheer for such a high-level opponent. Just right for recovery. Lin Kei answered briefly and approached the stone steps amidst the boos. Behind him, Lu Cheng supported Yan Zheka and chuckled. You fought so well. This was the joke after losing to Pang Liyun in the last round. It was the difference between you fought so well and you fought so well. Then I'll accept the compliment. Yan Zheka's eyes curved and her voice rose at the end. While climbing the ring, Lin Kei's body emitted a crisp sound, as if a rusty machine was starting to turn. It gradually smoothed out and climbed to the peak. When he stood in front of Luo Hei's, his whole body was as deep as the sea. His momentum seemed to have solidified. Suddenly, Luo Hei's felt that he had turned into a little white rabbit in front of a tiger. He was inexplicably frightened and nervous. He couldn't help but think of the scene when Lin Kei fought against Shannon. That terrifying posture of using the dance stage explosion to attack at the beginning of the match. Is he scared before the fight? Just as the thought flashed through his mind, he heard the referee shout loudly, "Start!" Luo Hei's didn't dare to stay in the same place. His footsteps were steady and fast. Lin Ke straightened his knees and shot out like lightning. Although he didn't use force concentration, he was as fast as thunder. In just a few steps, he had closed the distance between him and his opponent. Luo Hei's immediately changed his direction and tried to go around to the side. However, Lin Ke's center of gravity swayed and they moved almost at the same time. Faster, more nimble, and better at changing directions. Dozens of seconds later, Lin Ke grabbed his opponent's tail and threw punches and kicks, forcing him to dodge in a hurry to avoid a head-on collision to avoid being hit by the meteor force. In a flash, Luo Hei's kept dodging, but Lin Ke didn't panic. He condensed his qi, blood, spirit, and force. Boom! His Dan qi gushed out and his left leg expanded. He suddenly stomped down and followed up with a plow. Bang! With a muffled sound, the ground cracked and debris flew, as if a volcano had suddenly erupted. Luo Hei's lost his balance and his body swayed. Lin Ke seized the opportunity and took a step forward. He swelled his temples and quickly swung his right arm. A meteor streaking across the sky, he threw a punch at his opponent. Luo Hei's couldn't dodge in time. He struggled to maintain his balance and raised his arms to defend. Bang! The meteor fell to the ground and exploded like a bomb. The shock wave swept out. Luo Hei's felt the shock spread to his whole body, rolling his qi and blood and trembling his muscles. Bang! 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 Lin Ke quickly swung his arms and continued to attack. Bang! 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 Luo Hei's was punched several times in a row. He directly collapsed on the ground and kept retching. The referee raised his right hand and said, "Round 3, Lin Ke wins." Round 3, Lin Ke wins. In the home team seats, Chu Hui blacked out and covered his face. He only felt that the future was bleak. Luo Hei's was defeated in such a short time and didn't cause much damage to his opponent. In this way, it would take him a lot of effort just to beat Lin Quebec. How could he deal with Lu Cheng behind him? This bunch of trash. He gnashed his teeth and cursed silently. He walked out of the seats and walked to the arena with a gentlemanly manner. No matter what, he had to fight first. While walking, he suddenly froze and stood there in a daze. At the edge of the arena, Lin Ke put away his stance, turned around and walked down the stone steps. Walked down the stone steps? Walked down the stone steps. What is my brother-in-law thinking? Lu Cheng was at a loss. Beside him, Yan Zheka was also at a loss. After a while she muttered to herself, "My brother may want to leave you a more complete opponent." "What do you mean by more complete?" Lu Cheng's mouth twitched and he almost laughed. He instinctively walked forward. He only shook the girl's hand and forgot to high-five or fist-bump with the others. When he met Lin Ke on the way, Lu Cheng smiled and said, "You're putting me under a lot of pressure." If he lost, he would have to say goodbye to the national competition. Lin Ke looked at him indifferently and said, "I have to stop before I go too far." That's too far. Lu Cheng didn't have the strength to complain, but he vaguely read the other meaning in his brother-in-law's eyes. If we can't even beat Chu Hui, why should we participate in the national competition? Huh. Is he provoking me? Is my brother-in-law worried that I will be traumatized by the competition in Shanbei? Lu Cheng suddenly realized and laughed in a low voice. Then I won't hold back. My brother-in-law is such an awkward guy. After a fist bump, Lu Cheng looked at the arena and stepped forward. Fight Chu Hui alone? I'm not afraid of you. Chu Hui, who was standing in the center, seemed to be in an unbelievable dream. He was afraid that he would suddenly wake up. I've painstakingly planned and prayed and looked forward to it so that I could defeat Lu Cheng alone in the end. But in the end, it happened inexplicably. After Xiang Shi and Hai Zhe both failed, I was in despair. Who knew that things would turn around and Lin Ke himself would come down? Good things really fall from the sky. He raised the corner of his mouth and could no longer hide the ecstasy in his heart. If God gives you a gift, you will be punished. Chapter 340. Lin Kei's desire to win was almost abnormal. If he could still fight, he wouldn't give up voluntarily. Based on the above 2 points, the reason why he voluntarily left the arena after defeating Luo Hei's was most likely because the influence of the dark poison force was much more serious than I expected. I really had to thank Feng Zhirong for getting the opportunity to challenge Lu Cheng one-on-one. A self-consistent chain of logic flashed in Chu Hui's mind, making him forget other factors and outlining an unconcealable smile. I hope Lu Cheng's internal injury is more serious than I expected. No, even if it's only to the extent of my speculation, today's victory will be mine. He fixed his eyes on Lu Cheng, who was walking up the stairs step by step. Lu Cheng stood in front of him with a slightly pale face. Smiling slightly, Chu Hui took off his top hat in a very gentlemanly manner, put it in front of his chest and bowed. Lu Cheng made an obeisance, which was a response. The referee didn't give them any more time. He immediately raised his right hand and shouted, "Start!" The last round of the match began. Hearing this, even though Yan Zheka was full of confidence in Lu Cheng, she couldn't help but clench her fists and open her eyes wide. Chu Hui instantly flew up to a position a few meters above the ground, floating gracefully and leisurely, throwing out the black top hat in his hand. The hat fluttered and fell to the seats of the home team. As soon as it touched the ground, Chu Hui suddenly fell down, head down and feet up. His right hand clenched into a fist, like a huge stone smashing towards Lu Cheng from the sky. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. His clothes clung tightly to his body, making flapping sounds. The momentum was hair-raising. Although the audience had seen this scene many times, they were still shocked, as if they were watching a blockbuster with special effects. Facing the attack from above, Lu Cheng assumed a stance and stood firmly. He visualized the figure of a man with the head of a beast riding on a red dragon. Suppressing the violent heat that was beginning to swell in his body, he calmly clenched his fist and charged upwards. Bang! His fist hit the void and exploded a mass of flames that reflected the audience's eyes. Zhurong force, supernatural ability of fire. The flames rolled out, and Chu Hui's falling figure suddenly stopped. He rose up again to avoid the aftermath in time, in case his hair and clothes were ignited and burned. He narrowed his eyes, not surprised by Lu Cheng's response. He took a deep breath to withdraw his qi, blood, force and spirit, and then released them. As his body expanded, Chu Hui fell headfirst to the ground again. But unlike before, he spun quickly and turned himself into a drill that extended to the ground with his fist as the tip. The scenery around him shook weirdly, and even the air was affected. The combination of the explosion of the dance stage, the acceleration of gravity, and the terrifying rotation, flesh and blood tornado. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't use weapons due to the level restriction, Chu Hui's move would have been even more terrifying. Lu Cheng maintained his previous stance. When the high-speed spinning fist was about to fall on his head, he suddenly stepped back, as if he wanted to avoid the sharp edge and hit his opponent's waist and abdomen. At this moment, Chu Hui's figure strangely changed direction from vertical to horizontal, turning the acceleration of gravity into his own kinetic energy. His fist spun quickly and hit Lu Cheng. Lu Lan swore not to return it until it was broken. This punch was very satisfying for him. Not only did he use all the strength in his body, but he also made full use of the external force. The combination of the two forces and the spiral force was really powerful. This is the most powerful punch I've ever made since I started practicing martial arts. Chu Hui thought. He was excited to break all obstacles in his way. Lu Cheng lowered his waist and quickly made a force concentration. Then he popped up his right arm. His arm swelled, and his 5 fingers pressed against his opponent's drill. Bam, bam, bam. The sound of collisions was continuous. The muscles and fascia in his palm bulged and blocked Chu Hui's right fist. His fingers glowed with a dark green color and kept colliding with the rotating edge. Chu Hui felt his most powerful punch was like hitting a steel plate. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break it or drill through it. No, even if it was a steel plate, it would be broken by my punch. Crack. Wearing a white martial arts suit with black edges, Lu Cheng's feet pressed inward, creating a spider web that spread outward. However, his body didn't move at all. His right arm swung slightly and then pressed forward again like flowing water, firmly blocking Chu Hui's flesh and blood tornado. My most powerful punch was so easily blocked by him? Is the gap between him and me so big? A weak 6th pin fighter is so terrifying? At this moment, Chu Hui felt an inexplicable sense of despair. The rotation of the flesh and blood tornado slowed down. Lu Cheng's 5 fingers pressed down and was about to catch his fist. At this moment, Chu Hui bounced up and was pulled up by the invisible hand. He narrowly avoided being caught by his opponent. If he was caught by Lu Cheng and poured into the cold wave, he would lose. Once again, he floated several meters in the air. Restraining his frustration, he decided to change his fighting style. He didn't want to rush forward and attack fiercely anymore. Instead, he relied on the strange change of direction brought by his supernatural flying ability to fight. Another kind of hurricane blew up and distracted Lu Cheng, gradually exposing his unhealed internal injuries. With a swoosh, Chu Hui was like a fighter jet, diving towards his opponent. Seeing that both sides were about to collide, he suddenly pulled up his body, drawing a beautiful arc, strangely moved to the side, and with a bang, kicked the enemy's temple. Bam! Lu Cheng raised his left arm first, blocking the kick just in time. Bam! Chu Hui turned the kick into a stomp and kicked out the other foot. It was so fast that Lu Cheng couldn't react in time. However, Lu Cheng moved his arm in advance and blocked the attack in time. Bam! 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 Lu Cheng blocked and blocked. Although he seemed to be in a panic, he always rushed forward. However, he still defended steadily. All of a sudden, Chu Hui changed his direction without warning. He came to the back of Lu Cheng's head and kicked at his Yuzhen acupoint. His series of kicks just now was to mobilize his opponent and prepare for this move. Bam! Lu Cheng leaned his body and swung his arm backward, hitting Chu Hui's instep. Bam! 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 Chu Hui tried his best to stop abruptly with his supernatural flying ability, changing directions in a strange way, creating great opportunities again and again. Unfortunately, every time, he seemed to have fallen into Lu Cheng's trap and was always blocked by him. At most, there were some errors that did not affect the overall situation. How could he not feel hopeless? How did he block my attacks just now? Bam! Boom! His Dan Qi gushed out like a volcano erupting. Chu Hui felt as if his butt had been burned. With a bang, he broke through the airflow and set off a strong wind. In the strong wind, he made a half-arc and miraculously appeared behind Lu Cheng again. Chu Hui's body came to a sudden stop, and his kinetic energy was transmitted. Chu Hui tightened his thighs in an instant and whipped his opponent's neck horizontally. Let's see if you can still react. Lu Cheng didn't try to dodge. He gathered and retracted his Dan Qi and turned his right hand into a whip, lashing out in the opposite direction. Bang! The whip struck the whip leg, creating a muffled sound. Chu Hui felt a sharp pain in his face. His body shook violently. He didn't dare to stay any longer. He flew up and hid in the air. For the sake of demeanor, he resisted the urge to rub his legs with both hands. Even this won't work? Chu Hui didn't believe it and launched another attack. With the help of his supernatural flying ability, he made 2 consecutive explosions. However, Lu Cheng still defended him so well that he couldn't create a chance to win. Whoosh! 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 He floated up, gasping for air and feeling the exhaustion in his body. Since the beginning of the fight, he, who was not good at physical strength, was quite tired. Lu Cheng, on the other hand, was breathing evenly and only sweating a little. How could he continue the fight? Chu Hui felt desperate again and almost didn't want to attack. His internal injury hadn't healed yet. His internal injury hadn't healed yet. His internal injury hadn't healed yet. Chu Hui kept telling himself as if he was hypnotizing himself. Yes, his internal injury hadn't healed yet. If the intensity of the fight was maintained for a while, it would affect him and give him a chance. Chu Hui took a deep breath and made up his mind. He started to visualize and run his supernatural ability to stimulate the essence and blood in his body. The familiar feeling of power spread. Chu Hui's face turned red and blue. Finally, he stabilized and his body seemed to expand. He returned to his peak state with the help of the secret method. Come on, let's fight until we run out of ammunition and see who will win. Lu Cheng raised his head and glanced at him. He shook his head slightly. What do you mean? The doubt flashed through Chu Hui's mind. He turned into a fighter jet again and swooped down. At this moment, Lu Cheng arched his back, shook his arms, and swung his wrists, throwing out a ball of crystal white cold light and crimson-red tyrannical flame. Boom! The cold light and the flame shot out and collided with each other in front of Chu Hui. White fog filled the air and slightly blocked his sight. In the fog, Chu Hui suddenly saw a figure fly up and jump several meters high. Lu Cheng? His pupils shrank to the size of needles. He found that the enemy had jumped to a higher place than his current position. After the shock, he was overjoyed. Chu Hui couldn't believe his eyes. Is Lu Cheng stupid? Why did he give up his advantage and fight me in the air? If I can't win, I might as well buy a piece of tofu and kill myself. Another pie fell from the sky. Chu Hui was about to change his direction when he saw Lu Cheng make a gesture with his hands. His expression became solemn. Army! A deep voice came. Chu Hui's body shook and immediately fell into the thousands of soldiers and horses. He was frightened by the iron-blooded evil spirit. 9 words formula. Army, formula. Lu Cheng jumped down and grabbed Chu Hui's shoulder. He poured frost force into Chu Hui and pressed him down to the ground from the air. Whoosh! The sound of wind entered his ears, and Chu Hui woke up. However, the cold had already entered his body and he could not break free. He could only watch as he was about to crash into the ground. You'll die like this, won't you? Just as he lost his courage, he felt the momentum of his falling body suddenly come to a halt, and he landed lightly on his back. Lu Cheng took back his hand and straightened his body. He didn't attack again. Chu Hui was frozen and couldn't move for a while. Round 5, Lu Cheng wins. The referee didn't hesitate. The final result is Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. Chu Hui immediately woke up when he heard these words. But he felt like he was still dreaming. If Lu Cheng had used the last attack at the beginning, he wouldn't have been able to defend himself. Then the question was, why did we fight for so long? In the midst of his confusion and despair, he saw Lu Cheng smile at him and say softly, "I'm sorry. It's interesting to fight with a supernatural flying ability." Chapter 341. It's interesting to fight with a supernatural flying ability. Lying on the ground, Chu Hui looked up at Lu Cheng and repeated Lu Cheng's words blankly. For a moment, he even forgot that the coldness in his body had disappeared. He forgot to turn over and stand up, forgetting his usual demeanor. He fought with me for so long because he wanted to experience and enjoy the unique experience of fighting with a supernatural flying ability? Thump, 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 thump. Chu Hui's heart expanded and contracted, spurting out streams of hot blood to disperse the remaining coldness. However, he didn't feel warm at all. Instead, he felt like he had sunk into a 10,000-year-old ice cave, feeling the darkness, depression, and coldness around him. Is this the taste of despair? Is the gap between me and Lu Cheng so big? Even when facing him who hasn't recovered from his internal injuries, I can only be killed within seconds. His previous self-esteem had turned into sarcasm and slaps in the face. Hee, how could there be such a free lunch? Lu Cheng didn't say anything. He cupped his hands, turned around, and walked to the stone steps. To be honest, Chu Hui did have the combat strength of a professional 7th pin. If it were another weak professional 6th pin who hadn't recovered from their internal injuries, it would be more troublesome to deal with him. However, Lu Cheng's unique skills just happened to restrain him, so he could kill him within seconds. It was like fighting a fighter who had just entered the dance stage and didn't have supernatural abilities. For example, although Lu Cheng couldn't detect the operation of his supernatural ability with the ice mirror, Chu Hui didn't rush at him recklessly. He would still make a move to kick him, so there was a prelude. This made it easier for Lu Cheng to predict and respond in advance, so Lu Cheng's strange change of direction had little effect. Similarly, the long-range attack ability of the army formula within a certain range solved the problem of how to hit him. Moreover, Chu Hui didn't have a corresponding secret defense method, and his spirit wasn't strong enough to resist a little like a professional 7th pin fighter, so the result was self-evident. In other words, it would be more difficult for Lu Cheng to fight a normal professional 7th pin fighter in the dance stage than Chu Hui. Of course, the rules of the challenge tournament also limited the opponent's performance. If Chu Hui was allowed to use weapons, things would be completely different if he gave him a bow, a crossbow, or a hot weapon in the air. Watching Lu Cheng leave the arena and walk to the seats, The surrounding audience fell silent. The overwhelming boos had already dissipated, leaving only the lingering sound. Booing the other party at this time was more like booing oneself. Walking along the road back to the starting point, Lu Cheng saw Yan Zheke walking up to him. She clenched her fist and shouted with a smile, "Cheng, you did a great job. You're really amazing." She was responding to the earlier "you played great," and "you played great" jokes. Smiling tacitly, Lu Cheng's mood became more and more cheerful. After bumping fists with the girl, he high-fived Lin Ke, Li Mao, Kai Zhongming and the others. Everyone was very happy. Hai Yuan was weaker than San Jiang. If they could get past this hurdle, it would mean that the door to the nationals was right in front of them. "I really want to celebrate, but reason tells me that I can't get carried away and look down on Hai Yuan," Sun Jian said with a smile. "Good that you understand. Keep a low profile and accumulate good karma." Lin Hua glared at him. While everyone was talking and laughing, Geezer Shi waved his hand and said, "Let's go back to the locker room first. Don't you feel embarrassed celebrating in front of so many sad classmates?" "Of course," Kai Zhongming replied without hesitation. That being said, he still followed behind the rest of the team and entered the locker room in the oppressive atmosphere that pervaded the entire venue. Well, he felt embarrassed to celebrate, but he was more afraid of provoking the impulsive classmates and being trampled by thousands of people. In the stands, Yan Shaoling was like an abandoned quail. For a moment, she wanted to cry but had no tears. She wanted to celebrate but had to look around, trembling in fear under the gloomy faces of so many people. Alas! She sighed deliberately and lowered her head with Mu Jinyan, pretending to be sad. "Don't hit me, we're on the same side." January 5th, 3:45 p.m. In the martial arts arena of Hai Yuan Academy, Lu Cheng looked at the fierce battle in the arena. He leaned over to Yan Zheke's ear and said in a low voice, "Your brother doesn't want me to fight today, does he?" Yan Zheke rolled her eyes and said, "My brother left the whole Chu Hui to you in the last match. Isn't that enough?" It was Sun Jian's turn to be the vanguard in the match against Hai Yuan Academy. However, he still didn't have a good time. At the beginning of the match, he met Cheng Du and Jin Sha, who were in the dance stage and supernatural ability, who were easily defeated. Then Lin Ke showed what he had learned. After 3 minutes of fierce battle, he defeated Cheng Du with death sentence again. In the next 2 matches, he faced 2 different professional 9th pin fighters. At first, he seized the opportunity to defeat one of them with the outburst of the dance stage. Now, he was fighting hard with his exhausted body. While Lu Cheng and Yan Zheke were whispering to each other, Lin Ke used mercurial balance to find his opponent's weakness. He moved his arms quickly and threw out meteor force. Bang! Lu Yaqian's blood and qi churned and rushed straight to her throat. Her internal organs seemed to be trembling violently along with her muscles and tendons. She wanted to exert strength with her arms, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't raise them. She could only watch as the other party's fist hovered beside her temple. The referee raised his right hand and said with the sound of dantian, "Round 4, Lin Ke wins." Final result, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. Lin Ke withdrew his fist and gasped for breath. The sweat on his forehead dripped down, but there was a flash of joy in his tired eyes. Lu Cheng and the others jumped up together and high-fived each other with smiles on their faces, as if they were saying, "Happy New Year" to each other during the Spring Festival. National competition. We're finally here. They didn't have the excitement and ecstasy after a hard battle, but they had a sense of certainty and beauty. After returning to Songqing and entering the campus, Kai Zhongming suddenly suggested with a smile, "Why don't we have a meal together? Celebrate?" Songqing University Martial Arts Club, which hadn't entered the national competition for many years, did have a reason to celebrate. "Sure, where should we go?" Lu Cheng immediately agreed. After answering, he realized that he wasn't the one making the decision. He quickly looked at his master embarrassedly. Let's go. Of course we should celebrate. Don't forget to order a few bottles of good wine for this old man. I'll pay for it from the martial arts club." Geezer Shi agreed with a smile. Everyone cheered and began to discuss where to have a meal. In the end, Little Ming made the final decision. "Let's go to the food stall. It's a little low class, but we can have a good celebration." After inviting Xu Rue and her shooting team, The martial arts club members went to the food stall near the old campus. They found a spacious place and ordered barbecue, dry pot, goose lips and other dishes. The table was full of food. After opening a bottle of wine for Geezer Sure, Lu Cheng and the others poured juice and raised their glasses. Under the camera, they clinked glasses with each other and shouted their emotions in unison. National competition! National competition! Their voices were loud and youthful. Seeing this scene, Xu Rui couldn't help but recall the beautiful life in college. She felt sad and sad. She really wanted to be reborn to the day when she first entered the school, to savor and enjoy the past bit by bit. Once they graduated, they would go their separate ways. Many things in the past and many friendships could never be returned. In the wanton celebration, the noisy Lu Cheng and the others at the next table were dissatisfied. A young man with a tattoo on his arm came over and shouted, "What's the noise?" "Sorry, we'll be careful." Lu Cheng blushed and apologized immediately, feeling that he and the others seemed to have violated public morality. The young man looked around and sneered. "Is it enough to just pay attention?" 7 or 8 men at their table stood up together. Lu Cheng's mouth twitched. "Then how about this?" With a flick of his wrist, he flung out a ball of crimson flames, causing it to explode in front of the tattooed young man. The flames leaped up and illuminated the other party's face. The tattooed young man was stunned and didn't know what to do. Until his companions came over and pretended to be mediators, they helped him back. Lu Cheng ignored the astonished eyes around him and took back his hand. He sat down again, picked up a beef skewer, and started to eat. "We don't want to cause trouble, but we're not afraid of trouble." "Cheng, this doesn't seem like your style." Yan Zheka leaned towards him with a smile and whispered. "Why not?" Lu Cheng asked, amused. Yan Zheka rolled her eyes, gritted her teeth, and said with a smile, "I thought you would keep a low profile and crack the cement floor to scare him back. But you directly used the supernatural ability of fire to show off. That's too flamboyant. It's not like you. The one who knows me best is Ku. In fact, at the beginning, I also considered cracking the cement floor without anyone noticing. This is relatively subtle and low-key. However, after serious consideration, I gave up on this idea." Lu Cheng sighed. Yan Zheka blinked her eyes and asked curiously, "Why?" Lu Cheng answered bitterly, "You'll be fined if you crack the cement floor. Once bitten, twice shy." Yan Zheka turned her head and almost laughed out loud. The dinner lasted until 8 o'clock in the evening. When everyone was full, they raised their glasses and shouted again, "National competition! National competition!" In the following days, Lu Cheng and Yan Zheka entered the busy exam season. They reviewed exams, and worked together. On the 16th of January, before they had one last exam left, another event began on time. That was the drawing of lots for the final round of the National University Martial Arts competitions. 16 strong martial arts teams in 8 divisions would fight in groups. In the office of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, a group of people gathered again. They turned on their computers and connected to the internet, waiting for the live broadcast to begin. Xu Rui also came here, faithfully recording the most primitive reactions. In her opinion, Songqing University was only a little bit worse than Shanshan University, a little bit worse than the capital, and the same level as Huahai and Guangnan. They were strong enough to reach the top 4, but they didn't have any historical records and couldn't be seeded. The specific results to a large extent depended on the result of the drawing of lots. After all, there were also tough guys in the other teams. Chapter 342. In the unique broadcasting room, the hostess in an evening dress walked gracefully to the center of the room. She thanked the guests in front of her and invited Mr. Fang Jinjue, the president of the National University Martial Arts Federation, to come to the stage. The big screen behind her began to play highlights of the 16 qualified teams. "Mr. Fang, you look more hale and hearty." Seeing Fang Jinjue come to her side, the hostess smiled and greeted him. Fang Jinjue, with white hair and a youthful face, was very good-looking. He smiled and said, "Little Fan, I remember you said the same thing last year. Isn't that right? It means that you are getting more spirited and younger." In terms of eloquence, 10 Fang Jinjue were no match for the hostess, Fan Leki. She changed the topic and said with a smile, Mr. Fong, I think this year's national competition will be more exciting than before. How can you be so sure when the lots haven't been drawn yet? Fang Jinjue asked back. It's obvious. Zhen Huanqing from Guangnan and An Chaoyang from Huahai will graduate in July. Are they willing to be suppressed by Pang Leyun and leave the university martial arts circle in glory? They were the top professional 7th pin fighters in last year's national competition. This year, they are making a comeback and may be able to go further. Besides, with the growth of geniuses like Huahai, Piao Yuan, Guangnan and Li Xiaoyuan, they are likely to win the championship. Fan Leki said with great familiarity. Piao Yuan from Huahai was 1 year older than Lu Cheng and Lin Quebec. What's the difference between this and the previous 2 years? Fang Jinjue asked knowingly, with deep wrinkles at the corners of his eyes. Fan Leki said with a smile, but I think the gap between them and Shanbei Capital has narrowed. And this year, it's not just them. The martial arts clubs of Hudong University and Guiyang University were able to advance to the next round as the first in their own division, suppressing the traditional first place. It's enough to show that they're extraordinary. They're all candidates who could create an upset and enter the top 4. In addition, don't look down on the second-place team in the division. There are 2 dark horses this year. One is Mingdao University, which almost made Guangnan lose the game. The 3 He brothers have finally shown their brilliance, and there is still room for improvement in their tactical formation. In front of the computer screen, Lu Cheng and the others nodded slightly. They had all heard of Mingdao University, which had almost created a miracle. Mingdao University was not a strong martial arts school. In the past, it was almost the same as Songqing University, which was in decline. It was not until He Yifang, the eldest of the 3 He brothers, entered the school as a professional 9th pin martial artist. The following year, the twins He Erlong and He Santai also entered Mingdao University. Although they were only grade 1 at the start of the semester, they soon reached grade 9 in October. The development of the 3 brothers couldn't be compared to Lin K's, but they couldn't be underestimated either. He Yifang had entered the Dan stage in the second half of his 2nd year and was now in his 3rd year. He Santai had succeeded in force concentration before the district competition, leaving only He Erlong who was still at the top of the professional 9th pin. It was true that they were not strong enough to cause trouble to Guangnan University. However, as a martial arts aristocratic family, He clan had inherited the heaven and earth mortal world sword formation. Since the beginning of their cultivation, the 3 brothers had been cultivating tacit understanding and practicing this formation. Therefore, they could barely display the beginner-level formation in front of the inhuman level. For them, 1 + 1 + 1 was definitely greater than 3, or even 4, or even 5. In the beginning, the 3 brothers, who were only at the professional 9th pin level, couldn't do anything to Zhen Huanqing and were defeated by Guangnan's advantage in numbers. When He Yifang and He Santai both entered the 8th pin Dan stage and the formation's power multiplied, they stood out and almost defeated Guangnan. In short, no matter how strong their opponents were, the 3 brothers would definitely apply for the special competition system and fight side by side. This reminds me of a line. Listening to the hostess Fan Leki's introduction, Kai Zhongming said with a smile, "One-on-one, you fight us alone. Gang fight, the 3 of us gang up on you." In the midst of Talker's cold joke, Fang Jinjue looked at Fan Leki and said, Mingdao is indeed a dark horse, and there's a lot of room for imagination. There are still 2.5 months before the final round. He Erlong has the chance to enter the Dan stage. If he succeeds, the Heaven and Earth Mortal World Sword formation formed by 3 professional 8th pin fighters in the Dan stage is worth looking forward to. Mr. Fang, you also agree with me, don't you? Fan Leki deliberately said in a coquettish voice. And the other dark horse is even more worth looking forward to. Songqing University Martial Arts Club is listed as the favorite to win the championship. Haha, Shanbei and the capital's popularity index is 10 streets ahead of the other teams. Well, Shanbei is even leading the capital by a large margin. Mr. Fang, what do you think of Songqing University Martial Arts Club? Lu Cheng showed the combat strength of a weak professional 6th pin, and Lin K is more than enough to be a top professional 8th pin fighter. Besides, with their speed of improvement, they'll probably go further in April, or more than one step. Fang Jinjue said with a smile, I've been paying attention to Songqing University. I can responsibly say that they are definitely strong contenders for the top 4 in this national competition. As for the championship, it's not impossible. For example, Shanbei and the capital will encounter each other in the semi-finals. Mr. Fong, you really think highly of them. Fan Leki suddenly sighed and said, "It's a pity that Songqing University is not a seeded team, nor is it the first in the division. They can only be ranked in the 3rd tier, and will definitely encounter the strong teams in the first 2 tiers. If they are beaten black and blue before they can advance, it will be very dangerous for them in the quarterfinals." Lu Cheng, Yan Zhaka, and the others were a little worried. However, the rules of the draw had already been announced, and they had more or less accepted the reality, so it didn't affect their mood. "Little Fan, don't say that. You can say it the other way around. Songqing University is in the 3rd tier, and they're not the only ones who have a headache. Whichever group draws them will be the group of death." Fong Jinjue joked. "You're right." Sun Jian laughed out loud. "Give a thumbs up to Mr. Fong," Kai Zongming said exaggeratedly. With his arms crossed in front of his chest, Lin Kei stood quietly in the corner with a suspicious smirk on his face. Lu Cheng and Yan Zheka looked at each other and saw the smiles on each other's faces. Since there was no way to change the rules, then let's just enjoy the rules. We, the newborn calves, are not afraid of tigers. It's the other teams that should be afraid of them. Fan Leki and Feng Jinjue talked about the key teams with the help of the dialogue, and then briefly introduced the rules of the draw at the end. There were 3 tiers in the draw. The first tier was the top 4 of the previous competition, and they would enter groups A, B, C, and D as the seeded teams. The second tier was the first in their division, and the third tier was the rest of the teams. Now, let's invite Mr. Fong to draw the first tier team for us. Fan Leki pointed at the box in front of her. The first one is the seeded team of Group A. Feng Jinjue put her hand into the box and took out a round ball. She showed it while reading aloud, Capital College. Group A, Capital College Martial Arts Club. Group B, Guangnan University Martial Arts Club. Group C, Shanbei University Martial Arts Club. Group D, Huahai University Martial Arts Club. After drawing the first-tier team, Feng Jinjue cupped her hands and left the stage. Fan Leki invited another guest to draw the second-tier team. Group A, Guiyang University Martial Arts Club. Group B, Jinfeng University Martial Arts Club. Group C, Juku University Martial Arts Club. Group D, Hudong University Martial Arts Club. After the second tier, there would be 8 teams in the third tier. 2 rounds would be drawn according to the order of groups A, B, C, and D. At this moment, Li Mao and the others, who had been leisurely watching the show, subconsciously changed their sitting posture and slowed down their breathing. The guest stepped on the stage, exchanged a few words with Fan Leki, and put his hand into the box. Group A, Hushi University Martial Arts Club. Group B, Moshang University Martial Arts Club. Group C, Huatian University Martial Arts Club. Group D. The guest paused and suddenly became louder. Songqing University Martial Arts Club. Wow, the group of death is here. Fan Leki exclaimed. With Huahai and Hudong, Lu Cheng was neither surprised nor disappointed. For this reason, it didn't matter which group they drew. Although Hudong might be a little stronger than Juku University, it was limited. Not bad. We didn't draw Shanbei again. Li Mao exhaled, and the others echoed. The guest reached out his hand again for the second round of drawing. Group A, Hanbei University Martial Arts Club. Group B, Iron Capital University Martial Arts Club. Group C, Xinghai University. At this point, the final result was self-evident. Fan Leki opened her eyes wide and muttered to herself, "Super group of death." The guest dutifully took out the last ball and showed it to the camera. Group D, Mingdao University Martial Arts Club. In Huahai University Martial Arts Club, after hearing the result, the tall and indifferent Xing Jingjing instinctively looked at the club president not far away. And Chaoyang had long artistic hair. He was quite good-looking and had a bit of scholarly aura. His appearance was quite outstanding, but his eyes were always sleepy and slightly squinted, as if he was dozing off. Songqing University. He only repeated the name in a low voice. Beside him, Piao Yuan, who looked like a monk with a shaved head, grinned. Songqing University. Hudong. Ming Dao. This is say, I'm really looking forward to it. His facial features were ferocious, and he unconsciously changed the order of the draw. Inside Hudong University, the atmosphere was quite tense. Obviously, no one had expected to draw a supergroup of death. The leader, Yu Ji, shook all the fat on his body and clenched his fist. Songqing University. He looked like a sumo wrestler. His fat was piled up but not soft. It looked very greasy and bouncy. In a male dormitory of Mingdao University, He Yifeng and He Erlong looked at each other with a dignified expression. He Santai lowered his head and typed furiously on the screen of his mobile phone, engrossed in the game. Phew, supergroup of death. Sun Jian exhaled a mouthful of foul air. What are you afraid of? We've already beaten Shanbei. Do you think they're stronger than Shanbei? Lu Cheng looked around and took the initiative to speak. Since Shanbei is not stronger than us, we have a chance to win. Since we have a chance to win, there's no need to feel disappointed. Anyway, it's our first time to participate in this competition. We're not afraid of losing face. Didn't we say before that there's only one word for this national competition? He paused and then shouted together with Lin Ke and Yen Zheka, fight! Fight as hard as you can. After shouting the slogan, Lu Cheng saw that Xu Rui was filming something else. He hurriedly held Yen Zheka's hand and made eye contact with her. He didn't hide his expectation of facing a strong opponent. This April, the national competition. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.